Chapter 78. Sumo felt good, but who knew how many people were envious? The two Foundation establishment cultivators didn't say anything. In fact, their hearts were bleeding and they were secretly cursing Sumo's luck. Such a large reward was usually enough to reward hundreds of disciples in the sect, especially the nascent soul-level magic treasure and the Foundation-breaking pill. Those were things that many Foundation establishment cultivators and even core formation cultivators yearned for. Why did they give it to this little beggar? Sigh. Both of them were thinking the same thing, but their expressions didn't change. Those things were marked with the sect's reward, so they didn't dare to covet them. Therefore, they shook their hands. 2 storage bags fell into Sumo's hands. Sumo caught the storage bags and felt warm in her hands. Junior Su, we'll meet again. The 2 Foundation establishment cultivators looked at each other, but didn't say anything else, because they suddenly discovered that Sumo was actually a level 7 Chi refinement cultivator. Wasn't this guy at level 6 Chi refinement? Why was he at level 7 now? Could it be that he advanced again within 3 days? That was impossible. How could this guy advance so casually? Most likely, there was a mistake in the information. The 2 Foundation establishment cultivators didn't delve into it, so as not to be too depressed, and directly flew away. At this moment, Sumo was holding a storage bag in each hand. With a sweep of her divine sense, she knew that it was full of things. However, there were still many things that needed to be understood and sorted out. What were the nascent soul-level magic treasures? Which one should I open first? What a blissful worry. Junior Su. Just as Sumo was feeling smug and hesitating, a voice was heard. That voice was wretched and excited. Sumo heard it and didn't hesitate at all. With a flip of her hand, she threw the 2 storage bags into her own storage bag, because that was Senior Lu's voice. In an instant, Lu Tianzhan and Su Yike had already landed in front of Sumo's cave residence. Junior Brother Su, did the sect send out the rewards? Just now, I saw the 2 Heaven Wheel and Earth Wheel deacons leaving. They should be to give you the rewards, right? How many Foundation-breaking pills did he give? A nascent soul-level Dharma treasure isn't useless, is it? Lu Tianzhan glanced at Sumo and asked a series of questions. Then he stared at Sumo's storage bag. Sumo pretended not to hear and spoke directly to Su Yike. Senior Brother Su, you and Senior Brother Lu are really early. Hee. Su Yike smiled. Your Senior Brother Lu was anxious, so he came to Yongjin Peak early in the morning and asked me to come here. Congratulations, Junior Brother Su. You've reached LV7 of the Qi cultivation realm. The cultivation-breaking pill truly lives up to its reputation. Sumo said, LV7 Qi cultivation? Not bad, not bad. Lu Tianzhan came over with a smile and hugged Sumo. Little junior brother, you're really a genius with a bright future. Huh? Lu Tianzhan kept staring at Sumo's inventory bag. Senior Brother Lu, it's getting late. Let's go to Windwheel Mountain. This morning, Senior Sister Mu asked me when I was going to Windwheel Mountain, and I said Senior Brother Lu would pick me up soon. Ahem. Okay, let's go now. Lu Tianzhan's expression immediately turned serious when he heard Mu Jinghong's question. Su Yike listened to the conversation between the two and laughed inwardly. There were many talented people in the Windwheel lineage. With this little junior brother, the Windwheel lineage would be lively again. The long-lost feeling of the Windwheel lineage should be coming back soon. Su Yike sighed in his heart. At this moment, Lu Tianzhan and Sumo had already flown with the wind, and Su Yike hurriedly followed. Sumo was not very familiar with the wind technique, but it was enough. Lu Tianzhan casually gave a few pointers, and Sumo felt that she had benefited a lot. All the disciples who entered the inner sanctum for the first time had to pass through the 5 Wheels Holy Temple at the back mountain of Yongjin Peak. The 5 Wheels Holy Temple was completely white and looked extremely majestic. However, it was actually just an empty hall. If one looked from afar, it looked like a huge mouth that swallowed everything. Those who entered the inner sanctum had to pass through the 5 Wheels Holy Temple. That was the ancestral teaching of the 5 Wheels. When Sumo entered the hall, she felt that the entire hall was so cold that it made her shudder. It was an indescribable feeling. Why must I pass through the Five Wheels holy temple? Sumo was puzzled. Could it be that all of this is just a simple ceremony? However, Sumo had always believed that all ceremonies were not just ceremonies. There must be something more profound behind the ceremony. However, Sumo could not figure out for the time being. Little junior brother, it said that the Five Wheels holy temple was forged from thousands of bones, Su Yike said with a faint smile. However, it was obvious that he did not believe that legend at all. That was because bones could only turn into ashes. How could they be forged? Forged from bones? After hearing Su Yike's words, Sumo did not think about how bones could be forged, but she did believe in the legend and even felt that it must be true. Inexplicably, Sumo recalled everything that had happened in Silent Death Valley. Looking at the Five Will Holy Temple, Sumo had an ominous feeling. Everything seemed to have some kind of hidden connection. However, Sumo couldn't catch it. Very soon, the three of them exited the Five Wheels Holy Temple and rose into the air again. After the Five Wheels Holy Temple, one would be in the inner sect. In an instant, Sumo sensed that the spiritual chi here was far more abundant than that of Yongjin Peak and the cave of the Mountain Gate. The inner sect was indeed different from the outer sect. Sumo felt that she had entered a new realm. As a matter of fact, that was indeed the case. What Sumo was about to face was far beyond his imagination. The Yongjin Peak was outside the Five Wheels Temple, while the ancestral Soul Peak was deep in the clouds. The remaining five lineages formed a pentagon in their respective directions. The Wind Wheel lineage was located in the southwest. Although the Wind Wheel controlled the 9 peaks, it was currently the weakest of the 5 wheels. One must know that the Sky Wheel lineage had a total of 72 peaks and thousands of cave abodes. Although the Water Wheel lineage was the weakest among the 4 wheels, it still controlled 27 peaks, even though there were many female cultivators. Needless to say, the Wind Wheel lineage was miserable. Of course, Sumo didn't know anything about the inner sect. Looking from afar, the towering 9 peaks of the Wind Wheel lineage were quite spectacular. In his heart, he really did have some yearning in it. Hee, little junior brother, although we don't have many mountains and peaks, we are definitely number 1 in terms of cave abodes. No one in the entire 5 wheels is better than us. Lu Tianzhan was beaming with joy, as if he had finally found what made the Wind Wheel sect stronger than the other lineages. Sumo smiled and nodded. Actually, he knew that since the Wind Wheel lineage was the weakest among the 5 wheels, they naturally had fewer disciples. Therefore, it wasn't strange for them to be number 1 in terms of cave abodes. At this moment, Su Yike looked at Sumo's expression and smiled bitterly. He thought to himself, "Little junior brother, it seems that you weren't prepared for the situation of the Wind Wheel lineage. In a while, you'll know how painful it is to be number 1 in terms of cave abodes. Little junior brother, let's go to the first peak of the Wind Wheel lineage first." Lu Tianzhan smiled and said, "In order to welcome you, eldest senior brother ordered all the disciples of the Wind Wheel lineage to gather at the first peak to welcome you. This is a grand occasion that our Wind Wheel lineage hasn't seen in the past 100 years. Oh, Sumo sighed in his heart. It seemed that the Wind Wheel lineage really valued him. Thank you, senior brothers. Actually, there's no need to gather so many people. That's how it should be." Lu Tianzhan smiled wretchedly and then said solemnly, "Little junior brother, if it's not a big deal for you to join the sect, I'm afraid there won't be a big deal for the Wind Wheel lineage." Chapter 79. The first peak of Windmill was the westernmost of the 9 peaks. It was not tall. Among the 9 peaks, it was relatively short. From afar, it looked sturdy and sturdy. Lu Tianzhan and Su Yike brought Sumo to a square on the first peak of Windmill. The square had been abandoned for many years. Some of the green stones were broken. Weeds had grown between the cracks of the stones. There were even cobwebs in the corners. This place could not be compared to the square on the back mountain of Yongjin Peak. There was not even a basic array formation. It was so desolate that it was beyond imagination. If Lu Tianzhan and Su Yike hadn't walked in front, Sumo would have thought that she was lost. This place did not look like a place for immortal cultivation at all. It was almost like a mortal place. Although Sumo was mentally prepared, The desolation of the windmill lineage was still a little unexpected. Just now, senior brother Lu said that all the disciples of the windmill lineage would gather. Sumo thought that there would at least be 2 cultivators who would come out to welcome them. However, there were none. Lu Tianzhan and Su Yike brought Sumo and walked for a short distance before they arrived in front of a cave abode. From afar, Sumo smelled a faint stench coming from behind the cave abode. It seemed to be the smell of pig manure. To be honest, Sumo hadn't smelled that stench for a long time, because even on Yangjin Peak, there were all kinds of array formations to protect it. How could there be the smell of pig manure in the holy land of immortal cultivation? Although the smell matched Sumo's outfit, it was still strange. At this moment, the little white pig in Sumo's arms, Humph, actually poked its head out. Humph raised its nose and sniffed. Its reaction was completely different from Sumo's. The stench of pig manure actually made the little guy look like he was enjoying it. "You have such a strong taste." Sumo didn't say anything, but she looked at the little white pig with disdain. The look in her eyes said it all. "Umph." The little white pig glared back at Sumo. "You really don't know how to appreciate beauty. You have no taste." Could it be that pigs cherish each other? Sumo shook her head. As the man and the pig continued to glare at each other, they had already entered the cave abode of the Windwheel Mountain's first peak. The cave was quite large. It was 2 or 3 times larger than Su Yike's cave on Yangjin Peak. The spiritual energy was also abundant. However, it was a little dirty and messy. It looked very old. Moreover, it was a little empty at this moment. This was because there were a total of 4 people in the cave. 3 male cultivators and 1 female cultivator. At this moment, seeing them come in, the 4 of them all stood up, their eyes filled with anticipation. Huh? Sumo couldn't help but feel awkward when she saw that. She stole a glance at senior brother Lu. His meaning couldn't be any clearer. Didn't you just say that all the disciples of the Windwheel lineage will gather at the first peak to welcome me? What was going on? Only 4 people? When Lu Tianzhan saw the look in Sumo's eyes, he couldn't help but feel annoyed. He quickly said, "Little junior brother, there must be a mistake. How can there only be 4 people in the Windwheel lineage? Let me ask." With that, Lu Tianzhan looked at a slightly short and fat middle-aged cultivator and said in a serious manner, "Eldest senior brother, didn't you say that all the disciples of the Windwheel lineage will gather at the first peak to welcome little junior brother? What's going on? Why are there only 4 of you here?" The middle-aged cultivator wore a khaki robe. His skin was slightly tanned, and he looked like an old farmer who was exposed to the sun and wind every day. He looked very honest. At this moment, when he heard Lu Tianzhan's question, he was slightly taken aback. Then he smiled awkwardly. "Huh? This 6th junior brother." Su Yike smiled bitterly at the side. When Sumo saw that the eldest senior brother seemed to have something he couldn't say, she quickly tried to smooth things over. "Senior brother Lu, it's all right. Everyone is busy. Don't delay your cultivation because of me. Greetings, eldest senior brother Sumo." With that, Sumo bowed to the eldest senior brother. Okay. Little junior brother, we've been waiting for you for a long time." When the eldest senior brother heard this, he quickly grabbed Sumo's hand and said sincerely, "Little junior brother, don't worry. Your 3rd senior brother will be here soon. He must have overslept. We don't usually call him if there's nothing important. I'll ask him to come now." Sumo was a little confused. Why did he mention 3rd senior brother? Little 7. The eldest senior brother turned around and looked at the female cultivator. The female cultivator wore a blue dress. Her figure was graceful and extremely beautiful. However, her face was extremely ugly. One of her eyes was big, and the other was small. Her nostrils were facing the sky, and she had the mouth of a toad. The skin on her face was dark yellow and rough. There was actually a woman like this among the cultivators. If placed among the mortals, it would be extremely ugly. However, Sumo's expression was calm. He had always thought that such a person must be outstanding. Moreover, because of Sumo's experience as a beggar, he actually had a good impression of the eldest senior brother, who looked like an old farmer, and the ugly 7th senior sister. When he looked again, the 7th senior sister opened one of her hands, and a silver needle appeared in her palm. Sumo noticed that the seven senior sisters' hand was white and slender, as flawless as a beautiful jade, which formed a huge contrast with her appearance. Then, the seventh senior sister shouted in a low voice, "Third senior brother, little junior brother has arrived. When are you going to show yourself?" When Sumo heard this sentence, he felt that it was a little familiar and a little awkward. Was she summoning third senior brother? Was this the appearance of a monster? However, the seventh senior sister's voice was also quite pleasant to the ear. But what was that silver needle for? Then, the silver needle instantly disappeared from the seventh senior sister's palm. Then, in just a breath's time, a scream came from inside the cave. "Ouch! Ouch! Eldest senior brother, you asked little seven to stab me with a needle again. Ouch! It hurts." Along with the scream, a figure gradually appeared in the cave. It was a skinny cultivator in black. He was the cultivator from the third peak that Lu Tianzhan had gone to find that day. At this moment, the left side of the cultivator's face was pierced by the seventh senior sister's silver needle. Now, less than an inch of the 3-inch-long silver needle was exposed. Sumo didn't know that the needle was really ruthless. It had to be ruthless. If it was too light, the god of sleep of the Windwheel lineage would definitely not wake up. "Yo!" After the skinny third senior brother appeared, he first pulled the needle out of his face, and then, still a little sleepy, he directly said to Sumo, "Little senior brother, welcome, welcome. I overslept." Sumo didn't know how to respond for a moment. Hee. At this moment, Lu Tianzhan came over and said with a wretched smile, "Little junior brother, I told you that the Windwheel lineage wouldn't only have 4 people. Now all of them are here. What do you think? We're all here." "What? Everyone from the Windwheel lineage is here?" Sumo asked in his heart. He thought he had heard wrongly. After all, there were only 8 people in the entire cave abode, including himself. Senior brother Lu, what did you say just now?" Sumo asked. "Everyone's here." Lu Tianzhan stared at her with a look that said, "Do you think I didn't make myself clear? You should have known. Everyone from the Windwheel lineage is here. Little junior brother, today is really a gathering of wind and clouds, the majestic Windwheel lineage." A gathering of wind and clouds, the majestic Windwheel lineage? Sumo looked at Su Yike with a look of disbelief. There were tens of thousands of disciples in the 5 wheels. Even if the Windwheel lineage was the weakest of the 5 wheels, how could there only be so few people? This was definitely something that Sumo couldn't imagine, and she even didn't dare to accept it. Ahem. Su Yike was a little embarrassed. "Little junior brother, everyone from the Windwheel lineage is here. There are a few people from the Windwheel lineage, but your senior brother Lu is right." Sumo almost screamed out loud. She felt so hopeless that she almost broke down. No wonder senior brother Lu said that everyone from the Windwheel lineage had the best cave abode. Wasn't that the best cave abode? Chapter 80. The 5 wheels were the weakest in the Windwheel sect. All the signs since he joined the 5 wheels sect had proven this point. Therefore, Sumo thought that he was prepared for the decline of the Windwheel sect. However, the Windwheel Mountain still gave Sumo a big surprise. At this time, Sumo still clearly remembered the introduction of the 5 wheels sect on the Jade Slip when he entered the sect. The 5 wheels sect, located in the northwest of the Bone Mainland, is a first-class immortal sect and has a history of nearly 30,000 years. The so-called 5 wheels were heaven, earth, wind, water, and fire. When the 5 wheel sect was at its peak, it had shaken the entire Bone Mainland and made many sects submit to it. It could be said that it swept the bones in one round. 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 At this moment, Sumo wanted to cry, but no tears came out. In his heart, there were a million F*CK alpacas shouting F*CK alpacas. How could the 5 wheels immortal sect have 7 people in one sect? Is this a joke? Sweeping the bones in one round? That's not even enough to sweep the floor. Mighty Windwheel? More like Windwheel. They can't even use people to fight in the future. It's not enough. There are only 8 people, including me. That's less than the number of beggars in Peach Blossom Town. Is this really one sect? For a moment, Sumo was completely stunned. He had the urge to turn around. He wanted to kneel outside the ancestral soul peak, cry, and ask the nascent soul patriarchs why. Is this a trap? Sumo really wanted to cry. However, just as he had these messy thoughts in his mind, two hands patted his shoulder. One was Suyike's hand, which was lighter. He let out a long sigh, reaching the 7th level of chi refinement within a year. Sumo's talent was definitely unprecedented. From Sumo's point of view, it was hard for him to accept such a talent entering the Windwheel sect. Therefore, Suyike patted Sumo to comfort him. The other hand was from Lu Tianzhan. He was more powerful and almost hugged Sumo. In fact, at this time, Lu Tianzhan was afraid that Sumo would turn around and run. That was because there was a disciple who had been tricked into the Windwheel and ran away. Little junior brother, don't be agitated. Calm down. Cry if you want to. The Windwheels gathered to welcome him into the sect. It was quite touching. It's normal for you to cry because you're soft-hearted. If it were me, I would have burst into tears long ago. But don't ruin your health by crying. Lu Tianzhan was as shameless as he could get. Sumo might have wanted to cry, but she was disgusted by him. Ahem. At this moment, Suyike had no choice but to speak. Little senior brother, don't listen to your 6 senior brothers' nonsense. Our Windwheel faction is indeed weak, and we have really withered away. If it's not too late for junior brother to regret it now. Suyike smiled bitterly. As soon as those words came out, the entire cave instantly fell silent. Lu Tianzhan said nothing more. Huh? When Sumo heard that, he could not help but be stunned. He knew that Suyike was probably really afraid that he would regret it. At the same time, this was also a move to advance by retreating, and it was also a test. At this moment, if Sumo left, of course, it was not worth asking him to stay. And at this moment, if Sumo stayed, it would show that Sumo's character was indeed up to standard. The entire cave was silent, but Sumo could feel that all the Windwheel disciples hoped that he would stay. They were all a little nervous as they waited for Sumo's reply. At this moment, Sumo still did not know that the Windwheel faction had actually not recruited a disciple for hundreds of years. For a nascent Soul Realm Grand Elder to directly give Sumo to the Windwheel faction, it was indeed a big pie that fell from the sky. The great event of the Windwheel faction in the past hundreds of years was really because of Sumo's arrival. Otherwise, who would come to such a mountain sect? However, a melon that was forcefully picked would not be sweet. No one understood that. The Windwheel Masters did not want Sumo to be unwilling. Sumo valued friendship, but he would never be reckless. He knew that there must be a reason behind this abnormality. It was too abnormal for the Windwheel faction to be in the 5 wheels. At the same time, he also believed that the 5-wheel Grand Elder and Senior Sister Mu would definitely not be wrong. If they wanted him to enter the Windwheel faction, then there must be a reason for him to enter the 5 wheels. Therefore, even though he was letting his imagination run wild, and it was just a flash of emotion, his heart was extremely resolute. After a moment of silence, he just wanted the Windwheel faction to understand that he, Sumo, was not a person who acted rashly. Sumo greets senior brothers and senior sisters again. Sumo did not directly answer Suyike's words. Instead, he bowed deeply to the 7 senior brothers and senior sisters. In the future, I hope that senior brothers and senior sisters will take care of me. Such an action naturally explained everything. Good. Lu Tianzhan was the first to take the lead and cheer. That was a sincere cheer. His hand patted Sumo's shoulder until it hurt. They did not misjudge Sumo. The fact that Sumo could do this meant that she recognized the Windwheel faction. It also meant that Sumo's character and temperament were the best. Suyike's eyes became a little hazy. The reason for that was because the Windwheel lineage had waited for this day for far too long. Suyike firmly believed that Sumo was the person they had been waiting for. The 9 revolutions of the Windwheel faction overturned the universe. Little junior brother, that's great. Come. The old farmer-like eldest senior brother was also extremely excited. Then, he pulled Sumo's hand and said, "Let me introduce you one by one. This is your 2nd senior brother. His name is Scholar Du, and he is at the peak foundation establishment realm. He is knowledgeable and knowledgeable. He is the Windwheel faction's enforcer. The eldest senior brother pointed at a middle-aged cultivator in a white robe. That cultivator's face was slightly pale, and he looked a little frail. He held a fan in his left hand and a ruler at his waist. He looked like a scholar. The second senior brother had a serious expression and was serious. He had been restraining himself just now. Little junior brother joined the Windwheel faction. In the future, you must cultivate well. Don't waste time. If you don't cultivate well in the future, don't blame second senior brother's ruler for being heartless. Eldest senior brother is a generous person. I'll be the villain of the Windwheel faction. Sumo did not know if it was true. She hurriedly said, "Don't worry, second senior brother. I'll definitely work hard." Scholar Du nodded solemnly. The others could not help but laugh. This is your third senior brother. His name is Hua Kei, and he is at the peak foundation establishment realm. He can bring the dying back to life and cure all illnesses. He is the #1 pill refinement cultivator in the Windwheel faction. The eldest senior brother pointed at the skinny third senior brother who was late. Hee. Little junior brother, look for me if you need to refine pills in the future. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. The third senior brother grinned. Thank you, third senior brother. I'll have to ask you for advice in the future, Sumo said. However, he had a strange feeling in his heart. Looking at the skinny third senior brother, he felt like he was selling fake medicine. You already know fifth senior brother Su Yike and sixth senior brother Lu Tianzhan. I won't say much about them. Greetings to your seventh senior sister, Bai Yifeng. She's in the late stage of the foundation establishment realm. She's clever and deft, and all the wonderful techniques are in her heart, the eldest senior brother said. In the future, if you need anything on Windwheel Mountain, feel free to look for your seventh senior sister. She's the chief housekeeper of the Windwheel faction. Greetings to seventh senior sister. Sumo had been thinking about how this seventh senior sister could be so ugly. However, Sumo was sure that it was definitely real. It was not a disguise or a mask. Little junior brother, if you need anything in the future, feel free to look for me. I made a robe for you. The clothes you're wearing really don't look good. Although the Windwheel faction has its own characteristics, and we all wear the same things, your clothes can't be called clothes anymore. As she spoke, seventh senior sister took out a green robe from her storage bag and handed it to Sumo. Listen to me. Put on later. I sewed it myself. Although seventh senior sister was ugly, her voice was gentle and extremely amiable. It was an amiable feeling that came from the bottom of her heart. The robe was nothing special, but at that moment, Sumo was quite moved. That was because he had never worn clothes that were personally made for him. Thank you, seventh senior sister. Sumo took the robe solemnly. Little junior brother, in the future, the Windwheel faction will be your home. Do you understand? Seventh senior sister gently reminded him. Yes. Sumo nodded. The Windwheel faction was his home. Chapter 81. A new robe, a new robe. I want one too. At this moment, a tall and strong male cultivator who had been silent all this while suddenly shouted, Seventh senior sister, I want a new robe too. Sumo was stunned. The male cultivator looked like he was in his 20s, but he was extremely tall. He was 2 to 3 heads taller than the average person, like a small giant. However, his gaze was somewhat dull. The male cultivator didn't look like a normal person. Okay. Seventh senior sister hurriedly pulled the male cultivator and comforted him. I'll make a new one for you tomorrow. This is your 8th senior brother, Han Tian. Suyike sighed and said, 30 years ago, he suffered a chi deviation during cultivation and injured his brain. Since then, he has become like this. Sometimes he's like a child. However, he still understands the basics. His current cultivation level is also at the peak of foundation establishment. Oh, Sumo nodded. Hello, 8th senior brother. Hello, little junior brother. 8th senior brother smiled foolishly at Sumo. The Windwheel lineage is the best. Sumo smiled, but she felt a little emotional. Suyike once said that the Windwheel lineage lacked manpower and resources, but they definitely had many fellow disciples. It seemed like that was definitely true. Otherwise, with the survival of the fittest in the cultivation world, how could a muddle-headed person become a foundation establishment cultivator? Even if he was a foundation establishment cultivator, if he was muddle-headed, it would be difficult for him to survive. I have another junior brother in the future. Little junior brother, I'll play with you in the future. There are many interesting things on our Windwheel Mountain. Eighth senior brother smiled foolishly. Sumo's heart stirred. What does he mean by having another junior brother? It seems like the Windwheel lineage also had disciples in the past, but where were they? Suyake saw Sumo's doubt and sighed. 100 years ago, the Windwheel lineage also recruited 2 or 3 disciples. However, they either turned and ran after coming or went down the mountain halfway, and one died mysteriously. After that, the Windwheel lineage no longer had any disciples. The Windwheel lineage is poisonous. Sumo thought. But, little junior brother, you're different from them. Suyake smiled faintly. He still remembered that he couldn't divine Sumo's fortune. Sumo nodded and then asked Suyake hesitantly. 5th senior brother, why don't I see 4th senior brother? Hearing Sumo's question, the Windwheel children's faces darkened. Little junior brother, we'll bring you to see your 4th senior brother later. The one who spoke was the eldest senior brother. His expression was also unnatural, as if he had something he couldn't say. Oh, Sumo didn't ask any more questions. All right, junior brother, you still have to slowly understand everything about the Windwheel. Today, let's welcome you. Lu Tianzhan smiled and said, Eldest senior brother is prepared to kill a spirit pig to welcome you. You kill a spirit pig? Su-Mo stared blankly for a moment, then immediately remembered the smell of pig manure before entering the cave. Would the Windwheel faction raise their own pigs and kill them for meat? Was this something an immortal sect would do? Eldest senior brother's spirit pig is well reared. Let's go. I'll bring you to take a look. Suyake also wanted Sumo to understand the Windwheel faction, so he naturally had to familiarize himself with the situation. Let's go. Let's go to the back of the mountain and choose one to kill. The eldest senior brother was very happy. Thus, all the disciples of the Windwheel faction went straight to the back of the mountain. The first peak of the Windwheel faction was really shabby. There was actually a pig farm surrounded by fences at the back of the mountain. It had a radius of tens of feet, and there were 40 to 50 pigs inside. They were big and small, and they all looked different. The fences were pasted with spirit talismans to prevent the pigs from escaping. This made Sumo feel better. Otherwise, she always felt that the first peak of the Windwheel faction was not a place for cultivation, but a farmhouse. The pigs seemed to be no different from the pigs of mortals, except that they were fatter and looked cleaner. All of their pores were shiny, and the bigger ones seemed to weigh 700 to 800 kilograms. In fact, the entire pig farm was very clean. There was no pig manure at all, but there was a faint smell of pig manure. This was a little strange. Woo-woo. When the spirit pigs saw the eldest senior brother, they probably thought that he was going to feed them, so they all gathered around him. However, the eldest senior brother was empty-handed. Little junior brother, which one do you think is good? Let's kill that one. The eldest senior brother waved his hand generously. These pigs are equivalent to superior grade spiritual food. Your other senior brothers and sisters are only eating it because of you. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to eat it even once a year. Superior grade spiritual food. Sumo stole a glance at the other senior brothers. Their eyes were all shining, and they were drooling. Even 7th senior sister looked envious. It seemed that the pigs were equivalent to superior grade spiritual food. Otherwise, how could they be so greedy when they were all at least in the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm? The Windwheel faction was not bad either. At this moment, there was a movement in Sumo's arms. The little white pig crawled out again. When it first came up the mountain, no one noticed it crawling out. However, when they arrived at the pig farm, the little fellow immediately jumped out of Sumo's arms. Roar! The little white pig seemed to be very excited when it saw the pigs. It stood at the highest point of the fence and put on an arrogant look. Whoosh! However, when the pigs saw the little white pig, they could not help but scatter like the tide. Their eyes were filled with fear. They hid in the corner of the pig farm. A few of them huddled together and shivered. The little white pig became even more proud. Everyone was stunned. It was the first time they saw the little white pig. Suyak had only heard about it from Sumo. At this moment, the most shocked person was the eldest senior brother. There was a flash of shock in the eldest senior brother's eyes. It was rare to see such a look in the eldest senior brother's eyes. That's... The eldest senior brother's eyes narrowed. He was extremely shocked. At this moment, Humph was already standing on the fence of the pig farm. It was growling at a cave in the distance. Sumo looked in the direction of Humph's growl. It was a black cave in the corner of the pig farm. The entrance of the cave was 10 feet high. She did not know what was inside. However, following Humph's growl, there seemed to be a response from inside the cave. Roar! Humph! A muffled sound was heard. It was a small thunder. Then boom, boom, the entire pig farm was shaking. Then he looked at the black hole and saw a huge black pig slowly walking out. Sumo was stunned when she saw it. It was obviously a huge wild boar, because it came out from the cave entrance. Its body was almost 10 feet tall and looked like a small black mountain. The mane on its back was like a sword, and the tusks at the side of its mouth were like spears. Although its limbs were thick and short, they were like stone pillars. That was a wild boar king. At this moment, when it came out, the windmill senior brothers grinned. Why did this fellow come out? Usually, the eldest senior brother would not let it out. Roar! With every step the wild boar king took, the pig farm trembled. In fact, the pig farm could not trap it at all. It could go out if it wanted to. That fellow took 2 steps forward and directly swallowed a fat pig that weighed at least 500 kilograms. Ayaya. Lu Tianzhan's heart ached so much that he almost jumped up. Eldest senior brother, look, Black Elephant is eating pigs again. It's such a waste of a spirit pig. We didn't even get to eat it. The other senior brother's expressions were almost the same. However, no one dared to stop the wild boar king. At this moment, the eldest senior brother did not even hear Lu Tianzhan's words. Instead, he kept staring at the little white pig. Chapter 82. Roar! The black wild boar king howled at the sky, shaking the entire windmill mountain. It was instinctively howling at the sky. That howl created a gust of wind. The faint stench actually came from its mouth. At this point, all the pigs in the pig farm were scared stiff. They were probably afraid that they would be the next target to be eaten. Sumo felt a strong sense of oppression. That black wild boar king was definitely a beast. Sumo didn't know this beast, but the others from the Windmill clan did. It was one of Grand Senior Brother's spirit beasts, the Black Elephant. The Black Elephant was a nascent soul-level spirit beast. It was only in its normal form. In its battle form, its body could reach hundreds of feet, and it could be easily killed by a core formation cultivator. A fully evolved one could fight against an early-stage nascent soul cultivator and was definitely a ferocious beast. This was Grand Senior Brother's treasure, and it usually didn't come out. What was going on today? Roar, roar. The Black Elephant beast roared twice again, as if it was extremely excited. Grand Senior Brother, Lu Tianzhan, seemed a little scared. If the Black Elephant danced around in excitement, all the spirit pigs would die. They would either be eaten or trampled to death. Then how are we going to eat it? Lu Tianzhan's hand was reaching for his storage bag. He wondered if he could get a spirit pig first. The others from the Windmill clan looked at Grand Senior Brother. If the Black Elephant became angry, most people couldn't stop it. Only Grand Senior Brother could control it. However, Grand Senior Brother had a bitter smile on his face, because he knew who had summoned the Black Elephant. He was waiting to watch the show and confirm his guess. Roar, roar. The Black Elephant swayed left and right. It was very mighty and arrogant. It seemed to be looking for something or another spirit pig to eat. That guy was too huge. The pig farm was a little small and almost couldn't be used. The atmosphere on the first peak of the Windmill clan was a little funny and tense. Everyone seemed to be waiting to see what the Black Elephant was going to do. At this point, another pig was a little angry. That was naturally the little white pig. It was the one who let the Black Elephant out. However, that blockhead didn't seem to see him and was actually looking for him in the group of spirit pigs. Is your eyesight bad, or are you stupid? How can someone as noble as me mingle with those spirit pigs? The little white pig snorted angrily. It was so angry that it kept snorting. Umph! Roar! The little white pig suddenly scurried and directly flew up. Like a white light, it directly landed on the nose of the black elephant beast. The black elephant beast's nose was like a bed to it. That black elephant beast was indeed a little dazed as it pondered. What little thing landed on my nose? As soon as the little white pig landed on its nose, it focused its gaze and found that it was eye to eye. That was simply stupid, evil and stupid. Huh? The little white pig frowned and was very unhappy. It raised its little hoof and stomped on the black elephant's nostril. The black elephant beast's entire body was like diamond. Only its nostrils had a piece of soft meat. The little white pig was quite strong. Roar! The black elephant beast roared in pain, but it immediately saw the little white pig clearly. At the same time, there was an instinctive sense of submission from the depths of its heart. That was an absolute submission to a king of the same origin. Boom! Thump! The hill-like fellow knelt in front of the little white pig with a pious expression, as if a mountain had collapsed. Oomph! The black elephant beast's body actually trembled slightly. At this moment, the entire pig farm was filled with endless dust. If not for the suppression of the spirit talisman formation, it would probably be filled with dust. Huh! Apart from the eldest senior brother, everyone was dumbfounded by this scene. Sumo didn't know much about the black elephant beast, so she didn't feel shocked. However, the Windwheel Masters knew about the black elephant beast. That fellow's battle strength was extremely fierce. It was not an exaggeration to say that even if the ancestor of the ancestral spirit peak came, the black elephant beast wouldn't be able to kneel like this. In the entire Windwheel sect, except for eldest senior brother, that fellow was not afraid of anyone. There was once when Liu Tianzhan wanted to steal spirit pigs and was almost crushed to death by this fellow. What's going on today? Oomph. At this moment, the little white pig was quite satisfied with the black elephant beast performance and couldn't help but turn back to look at Sumo happily, wanting to show off. Cough, cough. In fact, Sumo was also extremely shocked, but her expression was normal. She deliberately coughed and didn't look at the little white pig at all. It seemed that it was not a big deal for the little white pig to tame a big fellow. Low-key. Low-key. Sumo coldly waved her hand and called the little white pig back. In fact, Sumo was overjoyed. This fellow was too powerful. How did it make that blockhead submit? Could it be that the little white pig had the ability to tame beasts? However, Sumo couldn't let the little white pig be smug. As expected, when the little white pig saw that Sumo wasn't too surprised, it felt dull. Oomph! The little fellow jumped down from the black elephant beast's nose with a lonely face. Then it turned its back to the black elephant beast and waved its little hoof. Old Black, go back. I'm a little lonely. That seemed to be the little white pig's inner words. The black elephant beast was really obedient. With a wave of the little white pig's hoof, it crawled back into the cave. In front of the little white pig, it didn't even dare to stand. It didn't dare to turn its body or raise its head. Sigh, but what's the use? The little white pig still felt wronged, because its master didn't praise it. No matter how great it was, what was the use without its master's approval? The little white pig's eyes seemed to be filled with loneliness and sadness. Cough, cough. Not bad. The little white pig climbed back to Sumo's shoulder listlessly. Then Sumo said slowly, "If there's a chance, I'll refine pills for you to eat." And when the little white pig heard that, it instantly became spirited. Its eyes became round and busy twisting its butt on Sumo's shoulder, doing a handstand and acting cute. It was very happy. It just felt that its master should praise it. Windmill and the others didn't care, because although they felt that the little white pig was very powerful, they didn't know its origin. And at this moment, the big senior brother was a little dumbfounded. Little junior brother, how did he do it? Compared to little junior brother, I can't even be considered a spirit cultivator? Is my beast taming skill very low level? Little junior brother, do you know what this little beast is called? The big senior brother asked tentatively. Sumo answered very casually. "Umph." The big senior brother complained his heart. Cold sweat dripped down his face. He thought to himself, "Little junior brother, you really raised that divine beast like a pig? Little junior brother, I'm not asking you to give it a name. I mean, do you know its real name?" The big senior brother asked again. "Real name?" Sumo was stunned for a moment. She used her finger to poke the little white pig's little butt. She felt that it was very interesting. Then, she remembered the little fellow's name. "It seems to be some dragon, elephant, soul-devouring beast." The big senior brother was completely speechless. It seemed to be some dragon, elephant, soul-devouring beast. Then it should be the dragon, elephant, soul-devouring beast. Okay? Little junior brother actually dared to raise a dragon, elephant, soul-devouring beast and poked its butt. You can't even touch a tiger's butt, let alone a dragon, elephant, soul-devouring beast. Chapter 83. Sumo patted the little white pig's butt again. The little fellow seemed to enjoy it and was very cooperative. Grand Senior Brother's eyes lit up. Little Junior Brother, can you let me take care of this little beast for a few days?" Grand Senior Brother seemed to be at a loss on how to address the little white pig. At the same time, he felt that his request was a bit too much. So he quickly said, "Little Junior Brother, I'm just taking it to play for a few days. It's also your spiritual beast. I definitely won't mistreat it. I'll definitely take care of it until it's white and plump." Grand Senior Brother was like an old farmer. At this moment, he was looking at Sumo eagerly with a face full of sincere expectation. Sumo hesitated for a moment. This little white pig was not an ordinary spiritual beast. Sumo saw everything that happened just now. Dracophant, soul-devouring beast. Although Sumo seemed to answer casually, he was the one who brought it back from the soul storage altar. Naturally, he knew that it was not ordinary. However, he guessed that Grand Senior Brother most likely knew the true origin of this little fellow. Little Junior Brother, Grand Senior Brother specializes in animal taming. He's a Foundation establishment perfected spirit cultivator. Usually, he likes to raise pigs and do research on all kinds of spiritual beasts. Su Yike said with a smile, "When he saw that your little fellow was extraordinary, he must have fallen in love with it. But don't worry, Grand Senior Brother is a gentleman and will never steal someone's beauty. Just let him raise it for a few days. It'll definitely be beneficial for him." "That's right," Second Senior Brother Du Shushing also said with a serious face. "Little Junior Brother, don't worry. If anything happens, we'll deal with it according to the sect rules. My ruler doesn't know Grand Senior Brother." The two of them pleaded. It was Sumo's first day at Windmill. How could she embarrass them? "All right, no problem." Sumo smiled. "Since that's the case, you can play with Grand Senior Brother for a few days." The second half of Sumo's sentence was directed at the little white pig. However, when the little fellow heard Sumo's words, he couldn't help but look at his eldest senior brother. Then, it actually shook its head with a look of disdain, as if to say, "What kind of person is this? How can I hang out with you?" Actually, the little white pig didn't think about how good Sumo's image could be. A beggar was no match for an old farmer. It thought it had high taste. Sumo was a little embarrassed. However, he was a little proud of himself. This little white pig seemed to be very loyal. However, eldest senior brother, who was next to him, smiled. He was a master beast tamer. The little white pig had an extraordinary background, but it was still a cub, so he naturally had a way to deal with it. With a flip of his hand, eldest senior brother took out a pill. Sumo didn't know what it was, but she could smell the fragrance. For you to eat." Eldest senior brother held the pill in his palm and smiled. He knew in his heart that the little fellow would definitely come. Sumo was just about to say a few good words to let the little white pig eat it, and then it would play with eldest senior brother for a few days. However, before he could finish his words, Humph had already turned into white lightning and pounced on the pill. While Sumo was still in a daze, the elixir had already entered Hung Heng's white belly. Then, that little fellow looked at eldest senior brother eagerly. The disdainful look had long been replaced by a fiery look. Sumo was speechless. It seemed that whoever gave it the pill could take it away. It was too greedy. Just now I thought it was loyal? Foodie. Hee hee. Eldest senior brother looked at the little white pig in his palm and said with a smile, "Little junior brother, don't worry. This little fellow is definitely a treasure." The dragon elephant soul-devouring beast is one of the 3 ancient divine beasts of the Pure Land. I thought it was a legend of the Pure Land, but I didn't expect it to actually exist. In the future, you will know how powerful it is. Although my black elephant beast is powerful, it only has a trace of dragon elephant bloodline. So as soon as this little fellow came out, it immediately surrendered. Not to mention my inferior black elephant beast, even a real golden dragon divine elephant would surrender to an adult dragon elephant soul-devouring beast. Because purebred dragon elephant beast is their king ancestor. Moreover, although this dragon elephant soul-devouring beast is greedy, it only recognizes one master in its life. Don't look at how it ate my food. It was really free food. If we fight, it is still your best friend. If the dragon elephant beast's master dies, it will guard the spirit until it dies. Eldest senior brother shook his head and smiled bitterly, but his face was full of love. The little white pig raised its head proudly, as if someone finally understood it. Oh, Sumo was shocked. This little fellow was so powerful. At the same time, his heart moved again, because he remembered everything in the soul-storing altar cave. Could it be that the adult dracophant soul-devouring beast died in the end? In that case, what was sealed in the soul-storing altar was its master. That should be a peerless almighty, Sumo thought, but she asked another question. Eldest senior brother, what is the Pure Land? The Pure Land is the world that we cultivate in. Eldest senior brother sighed. It is said that the White Bone continent is only a corner of the Pure Land, and we live in the northwest of the White Bone continent. Your second senior brother will teach you these things in the future. Second senior brother nodded solemnly, as if he was unwilling to pass on the responsibility. Little junior brother, when you cultivate in the Windwheel lineage, you will travel around the peaks and listen to the teachings of your senior brothers and sisters. Don't be lazy in the future. Second senior brother patted the ruler on his waist with his fan. Sumo smiled bitterly and nodded. Little junior brother, in the future, all our abilities will belong to you. Suyike smiled. However, that smile was a little lonely and meaningful. Oomph. At this moment, Hung, who was sitting on eldest senior brother's palm, was a little anxious and kept smacking her lips. Because how could one elixir be enough? Hee. Eldest senior brother laughed. Don't be anxious. As long as you play with me for a few days, you will have delicious food and fun every day. Then, eldest senior brother took out another elixir. The little white pig was overjoyed. He ate the elixir first and nodded vigorously. Then, he turned his head and looked at Sumo as if he had no choice but to be treated too well. Sumo curled his lips and thought to himself, "Foodie, traitor." However, after thinking about it, she felt that it was good that someone was taking care of this little fellow. It would save him from fighting with her for spiritual food. Everyone was happy. In the end, everyone chose the fattest spiritual pig and ate it on the first peak of the Windwheel Mountain. The spiritual pig was indeed extraordinary. Even without the blessing of the copper bowl, Sumo could still feel that it was full of spiritual chi. The spiritual pig was actually comparable to the middle-grade spiritual food that he had blessed with the copper bowl. Everything in the inner sanctum was indeed extraordinary. Even the weakest Windwheel lineage had such delicious food. Unfortunately, Bailai did not have the fortune to eat it. Sumo thought about it as she ate. That day was the grand day of the Windwheel lineage. Every senior brother and senior sister of the Windwheel lineage drank to their heart's content. Even Sumo felt a little surprised and did not understand why they were so happy. The meat and wine were finished. In the end, the Windwheel children were all drunk. Sumo was already drunk under everyone's urging, but she drank to her heart's content. In fact, except for Sumo, none of the Windwheel children were drunk. Instead, they were all very energetic. In the cave abode, Lu Tianzhan rubbed his hands and his eyes were shining. He could not be any more wretched. Ahem, little junior brother is already drunk. Let's split the things. Little junior brother's storage bag has a lot of treasures. Second senior brother, Do you think we should fight? 7 junior sister, you do it. Chapter 84. It was a quiet night at the first peak of Windmill. A woman in a black dress was standing in the air outside the first peak. Her expression was emotionless. That person was naturally Mu Jinghong, who had stunned the White Bones for 3,000 years. Mu Jinghong looked at the cave abode of the first peak like a goddess in the dark. After a long while, Mu Jinghong turned around. The 5 wheels are all in the Windmill lineage. Sumo, cultivate well at the Windmill Mountain. You'll definitely benefit from it. The 5 wheels might really be in your hands. Mu Jinghong muttered to himself and slowly walked out of the Windmill Mountain. 7th senior sister sighed deeply in the cave abode of the first peak of Windmill. Mu Jinghong left. 2nd senior brother Du Shuxing looked at his 7th junior sister by Yifeng and smiled. He could feel 7th junior sister's nervousness just now. Yes, Bai Yifeng smiled, but her smile was ugly. I knew as soon as she entered the Windmill Mountain, but I don't think she has any ill intentions. She's probably just here to see little junior brother. Huh? Mu Jinghong is here? Lu Tianzhan's expression changed. He was scared when he thought of his suggestion just now. Mu Jinghong was everywhere. Fortunately, they hadn't split the loot yet. Then, he looked at 2nd senior brother and said, 7 junior sister controls the Windmill Array, so it's not strange that she knows Mu Jinghong is here. 2nd senior brother, how did you know Mu Jinghong is here? 2nd senior brother waved his paper fan and laughed at Lu Tianzhan. 6th junior brother, is your brain damaged from refining weapons? With my intelligence, how can I plan for the Windmill lineage if I can't even calculate this? Huh? What do you mean? Lu Tianzhan was confused. Ha! Suyike laughed. It's little junior brother's first time at the Windmill Mountain. If you were Mu Jinghong, would you be at ease? You know, the Windmill lineage doesn't have a good reputation in the 5 wheels. Even if Mu Jinghong is wise, I'm sure he won't be at ease. I'll only be at ease if I take a look. 'Tis TSK. Lu Tianzhan nodded, but he wasn't impressed by 2nd senior brother or 5th senior brother. Instead, he sighed and said, Mu Jinghong is truly devoted to Su Mo. You didn't see how angry he was that day at the border of the 5 wheels immortal realm. Luckily, there weren't any core formation cultivators who tried to kill him. Mu Jinghong, junior brother, senior brother yawned. Mu Jinghong, do you really dare to kill core formation cultivators in the 5 wheels sect? 3rd brother yawned and questioned. It seemed that if he hadn't seen the silver needles in 7th junior sister's hand and the silent eldest senior brother, he would have fallen asleep again. Peek, I senior brother. Moo stage. Moo senior wow 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 I said. Muya hi Eister Peak. Wheel. Even senior brother is no match for her. Lu Tianzhan was in disbelief. I don't think that's possible. Even eldest senior brother is no match for her. Lu Tianzhan could not believe it. It can't be, because he was fully aware of his eldest senior brother's combat strength. Spirit cultivators were the most difficult to deal with. Senior brother could control more than one spirit beast. The number of spirit beasts that eldest senior brother could control was far from just the black elephant beast. Senior brother was no match for Mu Jinghong. Wasn't that an exaggeration? Ha! 2nd senior brother laughed at himself. I hope my deduction is wrong, but I think the most terrifying person in the 5 wheels isn't the chief monk of the Skywheel sect, nor is it the 2 nascent soul grandmasters supporting the Skywheel sect. It's Mu Jinghong. You should know that her origins have always been a mystery. When everyone heard this, they were speechless, because 2nd senior brother's predictions were never wrong. For example, 2nd senior brother weighed the pros and cons of the competition in the 5 wheels immortal domain and estimated that the Wind Wheel sect would benefit from it. Lu Tianzhan didn't believe it when he went there, but it turned out that 2nd senior brother was right. However, it was unexpected that the ancestral soul peak would appoint Sumo to the Wind Wheel sect. 2nd brother should be right. Senior brother finally spoke. His words held enormous weight in the Wind Wheel lineage. 2nd senior brother was in charge of planning, while senior brother was the one who made the final decision. Seventh senior brother. If Mu Jinghong was hostile just now, can you stop her? Can you stop her? Eldest senior brother asked. Yes. Seventh senior's sister pondered for a while. But I can't stop her if she wants to leave. Her footsteps, when she entered the mountain, were very strange. I haven't seen it before, but it's definitely not from the 5 wheels. Yes. Senior brother nodded. Seventh senior's sister turned her hand and put a coat on Sumo, who was sleeping beside her. Although Sumo was drunk, she wouldn't catch a cold. Seventh senior sister just did it subconsciously. Sixth senior brother. You said that Mu Jinghong is deeply in love with little junior brother? Why? What's going on between them? Women were always sensitive to such things, even if they looked extremely ugly. Huh? Lu Tianzhan scratched his head. I don't know about that. Didn't I tell you what happened that day? I think that drop of soul blood is enough to explain everything. Little junior brother trusts Mu Jinghong a lot, and he's his servant. I don't know what's going on between the two of them. I've checked, but I don't have any leads. Su Yike said, little junior brother was indeed brought up the mountain by Mu Jinghong, but he was recorded under the names of 2 Qi refinement cultivators, Huang Zhe and Deng Feng. As for how little junior brother and Mu Jinghong met, I don't know. Little junior brother was indeed immortal back then. However, he was extremely talented and had some fortuitous encounters, so he advanced several levels within a year. During that period, Mu Jinghong didn't take special care of him. For now, at least from little junior brother's point of view, Mu Jinghong is a friend and not an enemy. Second senior brother looked at everyone and smiled faintly. Otherwise, without Mu Jinghong's tacit consent, little junior brother wouldn't feel at ease staying in the Windwheel lineage. So, we don't need to be nervous. What's good for little junior brother is good for the Windwheel lineage. Isn't that right? Isn't it better if Mu Jinghong cares about little junior brother? Huh? Su Yike sighed. I'm just afraid that little junior brother will care about Mu Jinghong more than anything else in the future. You must know that beauty is a source of trouble. Second senior brother shook his head. Those who can't pass the charm of a beauty aren't true heroes. If little junior brother can't even pass the charm of a beauty, how can he settle the chaos in the 5 wheels? If one day Sumo fails because of Mu Jinghong, then what? Seventh senior sister asked. Then he deserves to die. Second senior brother, Du Shuxing's expression turned serious again, and his tone was firm. There was silence in the cave abode. Second senior brother is right. Eldest senior brother broke the silence. We don't need to think too much. We just need to teach and protect little junior brother. In the future, anyone who has ulterior motives toward little junior brother, no matter which lineage they come from, eldest senior brother paused. Kill. At that moment, a sharp look flashed across eldest senior brother's eyes. The Windwheel children also understood that they could not let history repeat itself. The 9th son of the Windwheel family had always had a difficult life. Eldest senior brother, are we bringing little junior brother to the 4th peak tomorrow? Su Yike asked. Everyone, including second senior brother, looked at eldest senior brother. Let's wait for a while. Eldest senior brother had a complicated look in his eyes. Second senior brother, take care of little junior brother for a few days. Take it slow. Everyone nodded. Chapter 85. The same night belonged to different people. Different people naturally had to plan different things. 5 wheels, Earth Wheel Mountain. Among the 5 chakras and 5 meridians, the Heaven Chakra was the leader, followed by the Earth Chakra. The Earth Chakra Meridian was a relatively special existence among the 5 chakras. This was because an Earth Wheel expert not only had 48 peaks, but also 36 crypts. The so-called crypt was no ordinary crypt. It was an existence that was not inferior to a mountain. However, these mountains were upside down on the ground. Every cave had a number of caves that extended in all directions, and there was a high chance that there were miraculous items within. That day, at the border of the 5 Paths Immortal Domain, the Purple Spring that Earth Wheel Elder Sun said was going to heal Sumo was the product of one of its caves. Although the other lineages had already belittled the Earth Chakra lineage's crypts as rat holes, there was no doubt about the benefits of the crypts. Someone in the 5 wheels once said, The reason why the earthly chakra lineage is still able to contend against the powerful heavenly chakra lineage is not because they have the most outstanding disciples, but because of the 36 mystical caves. This was because the crypt was the unique landform of the five wheels. Within a radius of 700 miles, it belonged to the earth chakra vein. At this time, in a cave with black walls, a black-robed old man was sitting cross-legged. He was none other than the current head of the earth wheel level, Enjomo. His face was slightly pale, as if he had never seen the sun. There was a cold glint in his eyes. He gave off an eerie vibe. He was at the advanced stage of the core formation realm. Although he wasn't as good as Yang Tianxiao, he was ranked second among the 5 seats. The chief monk of the fire wheel and the chief monk of the water wheel were both weaker than him. 300 years ago, Enjomo seized the right time, location, and people to become the chief of the earth wheel level. Although the current earth wheel lineage was still inferior to the heaven wheel lineage, Enjomo was cold and powerful. Yang Tianxiao once said, "Within the 5 wheels, the only enemy outside the ancestral spirit peak is Enjomo." Yang Tianxiao, who was known as the #1 person in the 5-wheel realm, had such an evaluation. It was clear how powerful Enjomo was. Therefore, in the past 300 years, although the earth chakra lineage was still inferior to the heaven chakra lineage, its strength was still there. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to compete with Tianluan for sumo. Yin and Yang, heaven and earth. The fight between the two of them was just a microcosm of what had happened in the past 10,000 years. Enjomo seemed to be waiting for something. Sure enough, a figure silently appeared in Enjomo's cave dwelling after a short while. Then he bowed to Enjomo. "Greetings, Chief." It was a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator who was wearing a mask. He wore a gray robe with sleeves that reached his waist. His hands were hidden in the sleeves. The cultivator's body was hunched, and his shoulders were very high, making him look like a marionette. "Sumo entered the Windwheel Mountain?" Enjomo asked indifferently. "Yes," the masked cultivator said. At 4:45 in the morning, Windmill Su Yike and Lu Tianzhan accompanied Sumo through the Temple of 5 Wheels and entered the Windmill Mountain. "Yes." Enjomo nodded. "So what if we enter the Windwheel Mountain?" "Chief, I can't enter the Windwheel Mountain." The masked cultivator lowered his head in shame. "Oh." Enjomo laughed involuntarily, as if he suddenly remembered something. "I forgot that the Windwheel lineage's mountain guarding array is one of 5 wheels. Is there any movement from the Tian wheel lineage?" "Not yet. The Tian wheel lineage is calm," the masked cultivator said. Enjomo laughed coldly. Sumo entered the Windwheel Mountain. "Can Yang Tianxiao really sit on the fence?" "Hee, looks like the 5 wheels isn't chaotic enough." The masked cultivator stood with his hands by his side, not saying a word. Enjomo did not speak immediately. Instead, he remained silent for a long time. The cave dwelling was so quiet that it was a little scary. However, the masked cultivator did not move or say a word, as if he was already used to such a situation. "Kill those 2 cultivators. Since they won't say anything and we can't find anything, we might as well kill them. If there's still no movement after a month, throw them on Yongjin Peak." Enjomo suddenly said, "This might cause some confusion among the people behind them. Let's see who the power behind them is. If we don't alert them, we won't know where they are." "Yes, I'll do it right away," the masked cultivator replied. "Also, how's the training of the people on Yongjin Peak?" Enjomo asked again. "Everything is going smoothly," the masked cultivator replied. Level 6 Chi Refinement. 1 cultivation breaking pill is enough to enter the inner sect. He's not much worse than Sumo. Hee. Very good. Enjomo nodded. "Give him the cultivation breaking pill then. I'll get Elder Sun to send it over." With that, Enjomo waved his hand. The masked cultivator knew that everything was fine. He bowed, didn't say anything else, and gradually disappeared. Enjomo sat cross-legged and didn't move. Then, he muttered to himself, "Yang Tianxiao, let's continue the fight. There can't be 2 tigers in the 5 wheels. The 9th son of the Windwheel Mountain must be killed." I don't believe you could be so steady. Then, Injomo slowly stood up. There was a secret door in his cave dwelling. That door was behind Injomo. As the first seat of the Earth Wheel level and a late-stage core formation realm cultivator, Injomo specially tidied up his clothes before opening the secret door. It was a dark and damp cave, dwelling in the dark. Below the cave, there was another cave. Behind the secret door, there was a flight of stairs that extended downwards, seemingly leading to the Earth's core. In the depths of the Earth's core, a pale, old man sat cross-legged. On Yongjin Peak, Shunlang had a cave dwelling of his own. Although it wasn't big, it was enough for him to stay. Shunlang was one of Mu Jinghong's men and was in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. However, he was ordered to cultivate at Yongjin Peak as a level 3 Qi refinement cultivator. Inside Shunlang's cave dwelling, there was a set of yellow candles hanging high. There were a total of 7 candles, and their light was curling up and flickering. Those were the soul lamps of cultivators. Including Shunlang, there were a total of 7 people. As long as the soul lamps weren't extinguished, the person wouldn't die. At this moment, it was already midnight. Shunlang was sitting cross-legged and cultivating. However, his heart suddenly stirred. When he opened his eyes again, he saw that the 2 soul lamps in the cave dwelling had been instantly extinguished. Shunlang raised his eyebrows, and his expression changed slightly. Because those were Huangze and Dengfeng's soul lamps. It had been 8 to 9 months since the 2 of them left the mountain, and there had been no news of them. A few months ago, Shunlang had requested to go down the mountain to look for them, but he gave up because he had to protect Sumo. However, he didn't know what Mu Jinghong had planned. Could it be that senior sister Mu had not found them? Who would kill them within the 5 rings? Immediately, Shunlang took out a sound transmission jade slip. His lips moved, but no sound came out. The Ink Soul Death Soldiers were dead. Although every Ink Soul Death Soldier was prepared to die at any time, they had really died. However, he had really died. This was a situation that had never happened before. How could they die before the war started? This was definitely not a small matter. Sky Wheel Mountain. Mu Jinghong had just returned to her cave dwelling from Wind Wheel Mountain when she received Shunlang's sound transmission jade slip. In an instant, Mu Jinghong's expression changed. Huangze and Dengfeng were dead. They were the 2 death soldiers that Mu Jinghong thought highly of. She didn't expect to lose contact with them after leaving the mountain. Previously, she had sent people to look for them, but to no avail. At this moment, Mu Jinghong was even a little suspicious of Shunlang's information. However, she knew that Shunlang had soul lamps. It was not easy to nurture an Ink Soul Death Soldier. The key was not just their cultivation, but their loyalty. If they were not loyal, how could they be called Death Soldiers? Huangze, Dengfeng, who killed you? Mu Jinghong's expression was filled with killing intent. However, a cold smile appeared on Mu Jinghong's face. 5 wheels. How come my Ink Soul Death Soldiers die so easily? Immediately, she opened her hand, and a jade slip suddenly appeared in her hand. Then it shattered. A small teleportation formation appeared. However, this time, Mu Jinghong did not teleport herself. Instead, she teleported a white paper crane. This was because a white paper crane had appeared in Mu Jinghong's other hand. There was a picture of a skull printed on the paper crane. Chapter 86. Of course, there were other people in the night. The first seed of Sky Wheel, Yang Tianxiao, had cultivated for hundreds of years, but still looked middle-aged. He wore a white robe and sat cross-legged in the cave with a warm smile on his face. Opposite him was Elder Du of Sky Wheel, who participated in the fight for sumo. Between the 2 of them was a long black table. On the table, there was a pot of immortal wine, 2 wine cups, and many spiritual dishes. It was midnight, yet these 2 core formation cultivators were still in the mood to drink. First seat, you are really calm. Elder Du smiled bitterly. This time, if we fail to recruit sumo, we will lose more than we gain. To be honest, the rewards are not small. Now that sumo has entered the Windwheel Mountain, I see that you don't care. Oh, Yang Tianxiao picked up the wine cup in front of him and smiled. Elder Du, everything has its own destiny. Why do you care so much? The rewards seem to be a lot, but to Skywheel cultivators, they are nothing. You should know that a lot of rewards is also a form of support. Even though Sumo has a heaven immortal root, she is only cultivated for a short time, and her temperament is not stable yet. The reward might be poison. Plus, she is just a chi refinement cultivator. So what if she is talented? She won't be able to do anything in a short period of time. Hee hee, you're right, Chief. Elder Du smiled. However, he stopped himself from saying anything. He knew that Yang Tianxiao did not like to talk about certain things. Strategizing can determine victory from 1,000 miles away. That was Yang Tianxiao's favorite feeling. Therefore, many things were in Yang Tianxiao's heart. He did not talk about them and did not like to be reminded. Yang Tianxiao was a conceited and powerful person who liked to control the overall situation. Elder Du knew that he only needed to drink with Yang Tianxiao tonight, and that the first seed of Skywheel did not need advice. Sure enough, Yang Tianxiao and Elder Du clinked their wine cups and drank. Elder Du, don't worry. Everything is under my control. Legend of the 5 Wheels. 9 revolutions of the wind wheel, reversing heaven and earth. However, that legend is illusory and has existed for tens of thousands of years. Other than the Windwheel sect, probably no one believes it. The Windwheel masters are deliberately mystifying. All of them are pretending to be crazy and hiding their strength. But could it be that I can't see through it? However, they definitely couldn't control the 5 Wheels. As long as our Tian Luan is willing, we can destroy them in an instant. Of course, Elder Du smiled. Then, he immediately made up his mind and said, if the day comes when you decide, I, Elder Du, am willing to lead the troops and flatten Wind Wheel Mountain. Hee hee. Yang Tian laughed and said, at that time, I will have to trouble Elder Du. It's my duty. The two of them toasted each other again. It's just that, unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't want to use brute force. Yang Tianxiao changed the topic. As long as the Windwheel faction is honest and knows how to protect themselves, they will be able to survive. I can ensure that the Windwheel lineage continues to flourish. After all, I didn't want 5 Wheels to suffer a great loss. I only hope that I, Tian Luan, will keep my word. But what about Feng Luan's 9th disciple? Elder Du hesitated for a moment before asking, should we kill him? Windmill's 9th disciple. Of course we still have to kill him. It's better to be safe than sorry. Yang Tianxiao nodded. However, Feng Luan's 4th disciple died 300 years ago. Strictly speaking, Sumo is no longer the 9th disciple. In other words, Feng Luan is still missing 1 disciple. The number of 9 wheels is no longer complete. Therefore, we can wait. Most importantly, you heard Junior Sister Mu's words. You also know that girl's temper. Who would dare to touch her things? Yang Tianxiao sighed. It seemed like he could control the overall situation, but he was somewhat helpless when it came to Mu Jinghong. Junior Sister Mu indeed values Sumo very much. After all, she was the one who brought him up the mountain. This time, if it weren't for the ancestral soul ancestors order, Sumo would definitely be one of us, Elder Du said. Elder Du, do you know what the best way to kill someone is? Yang Tianxiao suddenly asked. I'm slow-witted, Elder Du replied. Kill with a borrowed knife. A playful smile flashed across Yang Tianxiao's eyes. Elder Du nodded. He had to admit that Yang Tianxiao's words made sense. We, the Tianlun sect, have the resources and manpower. We can wait and see. We can afford to waste time and wait. The Tianlun sect will only snowball more and more. However, others can't wait. They are afraid that in another 100 or 200 years, they will be the next Feng Luan sect. Yang Tianxiao sneered. From away Sumo was intercepted on her way back. We are definitely not the ones who are anxious. The Fire Wheel and Earth Wheel experts are making big moves. However, I find it strange that a mere chi refinement cultivator is worth mobilizing so many people. It seems like they're a little anxious. Yang Tianxiao couldn't figure it out, and Elder Du certainly couldn't figure it out either. Even if he figured it out, he would never say it out loud. Could it be that the fire wheel and earth wheel experts have joined forces? So what if they joined forces? Can they stop tens of thousands of our Tianluan disciples? There are still 3 of our nascent soul ancestor on the ancestral soul peak. Therefore, there's no hurry. Yang Tianshao smiled and drank a cup of wine by himself. I reckon that the 5th wheel will have a new situation very soon. In the end, it will still be us who will clean up the mess and preside over everything. Once the earth wheel and fire wheel experts change, the most powerful ancestor on the ancestral soul peak can only push the boat along with the current. After all, the Selectan sect in the north is eyeing us covetously. The ancestral soul peak should have a grasp of the situation. Elder Du nodded in agreement. Yang Tianshao didn't say anything more, but his eyes seemed to hide the meaning of something he had not finished. Elder Du understood that there were many things that Yang Tianshao wouldn't say. Even if he said it, it might not be the truth. When working beside Yang Tianshao, one only needed to be obedient and obedient. However, Mu Jinghong was an exception. Elder Du didn't know why. Yang Tianshao was definitely not a person who could be seen through, and was even more difficult to get along with. Earth Wheel Mountain, the cave residence of the Crypt Chief. At this moment, In Zhomo had already walked out from the secret door. However, he didn't look very good. His brows were slightly furrowed, and his face was filled with worry. It seemed like the situation wasn't as optimistic as he thought. Soul, gathering pearl. In Zhomo said these 3 words coldly, as if he was making a decision. Fire Wheel Mountain. The Fire Wheel lineage governed 52 peaks. 8 of them were rather special. That was because those 8 peaks were volcanic in nature. Beneath them, there was magma and strange fire seeds. Those fire seeds also created many core cultivators in the Fire Wheel lineage. Furthermore, most of the Fire Wheel techniques were based on fire. At this moment, in the cave residence of the Fire Wheel Mountain's chief, a purple-robed cultivator had his eyes closed. Beside him stood another red-robed cultivator. He had a thin face and a pair of eagle eyes. That red-robed cultivator was Elder Hua Luanhong. Elder Hong. The purple-robed old man's tone was unfriendly. This time, we've suffered the greatest loss. Late Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators aren't easy to find, right? You're too reckless. This, Elder Hong bowed and said, I understand. However, we had no other choice. I didn't expect Mu Jinghong to suddenly appear. Otherwise, I wouldn't have killed and silenced him. Otherwise, the Fire Wheel Chief sighed deeply. Elder Hong, we can't compare to the Heaven Wheel lineage in terms of numbers. We can't compare to the Earth Wheel lineage's sinister cave either. Therefore, we can only protect ourselves and can't consume too much energy. Otherwise, we'll be the next Wind Wheel. Yes, I'll remember it. I'll be more cautious in the future. Elder Hong bowed, but there was obvious disdain in his eyes. Compared to the Heaven Wheel and Earth Wheel chiefs, the Fire Wheel chief, Ruan Mulin's ability to command his subordinates was far inferior. If he was at the Heaven Wheel or Earth Wheel level, he would be skinned alive. That pearl has entered the Wind Wheel Mountain. I'm afraid it won't be easy to get it back. The Fire Wheel chief closed his eyes slightly. He seemed to be talking to himself, but also seemed to be asking Elder Hong. Elder Hong lowered his head and didn't speak, but there was a sneer in his eyes. Water Wheel Mountain. Among the 5 lineages, only the Water Wheel lineage was stable and natural. There were 36 peaks under the jurisdiction of the Water Wheel lineage. There wasn't anything special about them, but each had beautiful scenery. At this moment, the Water Wheel chief, Shui Linglong, was lying on a cloud bed in the cave residence, enjoying the intimate massage from 2 handsome male disciples. Her eyes were blurred and full of lust. Ha ha ha. Chapter 87. On the second day, a ray of light shone on the windmill. The entire 9 windmill peaks seemed to have a new atmosphere. 7th senior sister stayed by Sumo's side as if she was reluctant to leave. A peaceful night was very important to the windmill lineage. That was because many disciples who had been to the Windmill Mountain died inexplicably overnight. Therefore, this time, The windmill lineage was relaxed on the outside, but strict on the inside, and they made Sumo drunk. This was to prevent Sumo from seeing or hearing anything. At this moment, Seventh Senior Sister knew that Sumo was about to wake up. Sumo should have slept very comfortably. At this moment, Lu Tianzhan looked anxious. He looked at Sumo and then at Second Senior Brother and said with an awkward smile, "Second Senior Brother, shouldn't we split Little Junior Brother's things? At least half, right? The sect will reward him too much. It's not safe to leave those precious things with Little Junior Brother, right?" Second Senior Brother looked at Lu Tianzhan and felt that it was funny. "Sixth Junior Brother, what's wrong? Are you out of materials for refining weapons recently? Don't tell me all 3 of your storage bags are empty. You have the most things in our windmill lineage. Don't you think it's not enough?" Sigh. Lu Tianzhan's face was full of sorrow. The fees for refining weapons. I can even refine a few immortal mountains. The consumption is too great. My 3 storage pouches are empty. Empty. At this moment, Third Senior Brother's eyes were sleepy. It seemed that he had secretly slept last night. Fees for refining weapons? How can there be elixir refining fees? You have 3 storage bags, but I don't even have one. Third Senior Brother looked up and said a few words to stir up the conversation. Then, he went back to sleep. Sigh. Lu Tianzhan shook his head in pain and sighed. The most painful thing in the world is that no one understands my poverty. That was the truth. Unfortunately, no one was moved. You're poor? I think you have too many storage bags. Second Senior Brother sneered. In that case, why don't we make another bet? If you win, I'll ask Seventh Junior Sister to give you Little Junior Brother's things. If I win, can you give me one of your 3 storage pouches? Bet with you again. Lu Tianzhan's face turned green when he heard Second Senior Brother's words. His 2 hands tightly clutched onto the 3 storage bags. I'm not going to bet with you, Lu Tianzhan said snappily. I originally had 5 storage pouches, and you've already won 2 of them. You still want to bet? Hee hee. Second Senior Brother closed the fan in his hand and smiled. Sixth Junior Brother, if you win this time, I will return both of them to you. What do you think? Moreover, Little Junior Brother has quite a lot of things. Really? Lu Tianzhan seemed to be tempted. He loosened his grip on the storage bag. Because every time he gambled, he was actually just a little bit away from winning. He really couldn't accept it. In fact, this kind of loss was the scariest, because it always gave you the extravagant hope of winning. But in reality, they couldn't win at all. Life is often like this. But who was Second Senior Brother? Du Shusheng had never lost a bet. Sixth Senior Brother, why are you so forgetful? Seventh Senior Sister glanced at the 2 of them and said, don't even think about winning against Second Senior Brother in this life. If you feel that your Dharma treasures are too heavy, you can bet with him. Hee hee. Second Senior Brother laughed. Lu Tianzhan couldn't help but roll his eyes at Second Senior Brother. Second Senior Brother, you liar. You want to cheat me in my things again. No way. I'll never bet with you again. Little Junior Brother, Little Junior Brother. Lu Tianzhan gave up on the idea of dividing the things and wanted to wake Sumo up. Sixth Senior Brother, don't wake him up. He still needs a quarter of an hour before he wakes up. Otherwise, the wine won't disperse, and he won't be able to fully use his spirit chi, Seventh Senior Sister said. Sigh. Don't spoil him by giving him the spiritual wine, Lu Tianzhan said. Of course not. Third Senior Brother specially made it. Little Junior Brother, if you can reach the Foundation Establishment realm soon, the combat power of our Windwheel lineage will increase exponentially, Seventh Senior Sister said. It's easy to reach the Foundation Establishment realm. Hee. Lu Tianzhan laughed and said, there are many Foundation Establishment pills in Little Junior Brother's storage bag. He can take them as much as he wants, and it'll be enough for him to reach the Foundation Establishment realm 8 to 10 times. And the Foundation Establishment pill. By the way, Seventh Junior Sister, do we need to check if there are any problems? Sixth Senior Brother. Seventh Senior Sister glared at Lu Tianzhan and said, don't covet Little Junior Brother's things. The Foundation Establishment pill is useless to you. I'll take care of everything for Little Junior Brother from now on. Don't even think about it. I've checked the rewards given by the faction. There's no problem. Huh? Lu Tianzhan couldn't help but feel embarrassed when his thoughts were exposed. He asked in confusion, "Seventh junior sister, when did you do it? Why didn't I see it?" Hee hee, Su Yike joked. If you saw seventh junior sister, would she still be called the best windwheel master? Sixth junior brother, be careful of your things. If seventh junior sister wants them, they're all hers. She doesn't need to bet with you. Lu Tianzhan hurriedly waved his hand and said, "No, no. Seventh junior sister won't want my things. Can our seventh junior sister be the same as the old liar?" Lu Tianzhan glanced at second senior brother. However, although he said that, he still moved his body to stay away from seventh junior sister. It was safer. He had been staring at Sumo's storage bag and really didn't see seventh junior sister make a move. "I'm the best windwheel master." Third senior brother could still talk in his sleep. He said vaguely, "I'm the one who can bring the dead back to life. Little junior brother, you'll refine pills with me in the future. You're the magic hand, and she's the magic hand," second senior brother said. Everyone laughed at second senior brother's words. There were indeed many eccentric geniuses in the Windwheel sect. However, they were different in the eyes of the other sections. After a peaceful night, they all felt relaxed. At this moment, Sumo turned over and woke up leisurely. Sumo slept extremely comfortably. He even felt as if he was cultivating in a dream. The immortal chi in his body had never stopped. The wine last night was definitely not ordinary wine. The spiritual energy in the wine was comparable to that of a middle-grade spiritual fruit juice that had been enhanced by a copper bowl. Needless to say, the spiritual pork was even better. After waking up, Sumo felt that his cultivation level had improved steadily. The seventh water halo in his pill C was even brighter. Can eating and drinking on Windwheel Mountain improve one's cultivation level? If that's the case, why didn't I come earlier? Sumo began to think blindly again. Little junior brother, you're awake? How do you feel? Seventh senior sister asked. A good dream. It's very comfortable. Sumo looked at seventh senior sister with a smile and then looked at everyone with confusion in his eyes. Didn't you guys sleep the whole night? How much do they like me? That's good. Are you all fine now? There's absolutely no problem with my wine. Huh. I'm going back to the mountain to sleep. Little junior brother, come and play when you're free. Third senior brother seemed to be impatient. He turned around and disappeared. It seemed that he was really sleepy. If he wasn't afraid that Sumo might encounter all kinds of unexpected problems on his first night at Windwheel Mountain, he would have returned to the third peak long ago. Good. Eldest senior brother, who had been quiet all this while, said 3 words in a row. No one knew what they meant. Little junior brother, stay at Windwheel Mountain for 2 days and familiarize yourself with everything about Windwheel. Don't go back to the cave abode for the time being. In the future, you can come and go as you please. Later, let your second senior brother, fifth senior brother, and seventh senior sister bring you to the 9th peak. I've arranged a cave abode for you there. Then, let your second senior brother give you a lesson first. Although they had only known each other for less than a day, Sumo still had to listen to eldest senior brother. But what did the last sentence mean? What lesson is second senior brother giving me? Sumo was confused. The word lesson was too destructive. Who would want to go to lessons? Was it going to lessons was worse than death? Ahem. Little junior brother, you'll know when the time comes. Second senior brother Du Shusheng put on a serious face again. Sumo kept thinking of a word to describe his second senior brother's appearance. What? Oh, right. Frog. Chapter 88. On the first peak of the windmill, everyone dispersed. Hung Hung was left at the first peak by Sumo, happily following eldest senior brother. The 6th senior brother and the 8th senior brother also returned to their respective mountain caves. Accompanied by 2nd senior brother, 5th senior brother, and 7th senior sister, Sumo headed straight for the 9th peak of the wind wheel. Sumo was already quite proficient in controlling the wind. After a quarter of an hour, Sumo could see the 9th peak of the windmill in the distance. Its peak was like a sword pointing straight to the sky. The 9th windwheel peak is the highest of the 9 windwheel peaks. Su Yike looked at the 9th summit and his eyes were filled with emotions. It's a pity that the ninth summit hasn't had a true master for far too many years. Second senior brother and seventh senior sister didn't say anything, but judging from their expressions, Sumo was afraid that they were feeling the same way. As they spoke, the three of them had already landed on the ninth peak of the wind wheel. Sumo could not help but furrow her brows. He already felt that eldest senior brother's first peak of windmill was extremely dilapidated. However, compared to the ninth summit, the first summit could be considered as a holy land, because the ninth summit was basically a bare mountain. There were practically no roads, and weeds grew everywhere. A little further away, many of the surrounding vegetation had actually withered. Little junior brother, don't be fooled by this appearance. The ninth peak of the wind wheel is the first peak of the wind wheel lineage. Second senior martial brother said slowly. However, his spiritual chi is all locked in his cave abode. That's why it's in such a state of decline. Oh, Sumo nodded. At the same time, his divine sense spread out. There was indeed a slight fluctuation of spiritual aura in the ninth summit, but it was hidden and did not show itself. It seemed that what second senior brother said was true. The three of them passed through the weeds and arrived at Sumo's cave. In front of the immortal's cave, there was actually a spiderweb. From the looks of it, it had been many years since anyone had come here. It was like a dust-covered historical site. However, on the stone wall above the cave, there were 4 ancient characters engraved, Windmill Universe. The 4 words were simple and unadorned, and the strokes were like dragons. It was impossible to estimate how long it had been written. If it wasn't for the fact that the person who wrote it had a trace of immortal will, it would have fallen off long ago. According to the legends of the Windwheel sect, this cave was the cultivation ground of the first generation of the Windwheel sect. Suyike said, Windmill Universe. Sumo's heart sank. It seemed like entering this cave to cultivate represented a kind of responsibility towards the Windwheel lineage. Little junior brother, 15 kilometers southeast of this peak, is my 7th peak. That's the peak closest to you, and it's the most convenient for me to get there. Second senior brother's mountain is 100 miles east of you. As 7th senior sister spoke, she took out 2 jade slips. One of the black jade slips had the word wind carved on it. The other was an ordinary cave-dwelling jade slip. The windwheel lineage has a formation to protect them. It is formless and formless. If one wasn't a windmill person or had no one to lead them, it would be extremely difficult to enter the windmill mountain. This windwheel jade slip will allow you to come and go as you please. 7th senior sister handed the black jade slip to Sumo and said, at the same time, this jade slip also contains the coordinates of the Windwheel 9 peaks and some miscellaneous information. Little junior brother, you have to take a good look at the coordinates of the Windwheel 9 peaks. There are many mysteries inside, Suyike reminded with a faint smile. This white jade slip is the jade slip to open the Windwheel Universe cave. It has always been kept by me, and now it finally has an owner. Once you enter the cave dwelling's formation will be activated. The Windwheel 9th peak will naturally come back to life. 7th senior sister handed the jade slip to Sumo solemnly and waved her hand lightly. Whoosh, a gust of spirit wind blew past. The Windwheel Universe cave had been completely renewed, and there was a hint of celestial charm to it. Little junior brother, open the cave dwelling. 7th senior sister said. Sumo sank his divine sense into the jade slip and opened it. From now on, he would be the owner of this cave dwelling. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the entire Windwheel 9th peak seemed to be shaking. That sound gave Sumo a fright, because when he opened the mountain gate cave dwelling, there was absolutely no such process. 2nd senior brother, 5th senior brother, and 7th senior sister looked calm. It seemed that they already knew about this situation. The entrance of the Windwheel Universe cave is a huge rock that weighs 50,000 kilograms, and it hasn't been opened for a long time. Once it's activated, the rumbling sound is natural. It won't happen in the future, 7th senior sister explained. Only then did Sumo feel at ease. Otherwise, he would think that some divine beast had come out of its cave. The 3 of them entered the cave dwelling. First, there was a tunnel and then it led to a large cave dwelling. Compared to the cave dwelling of the mountain gate, that cave dwelling was like heaven and earth. That was the feeling of a thatched cottage turning into a villa. This cave dwelling has a total of 1 main cave and 3 auxiliary caves. Apart from that, there are also alchemy rooms, scripture pavilions, weapon refinement caves, and so on. You can take your time to look around in the future. 7th senior sister said, "This is the best cave dwelling in our windwheel lineage." Yes, yes. Sumo nodded repeatedly. He was a little dumbfounded. Although the entire cave dwelling was empty, Sumo still felt extremely excited. It was not an exaggeration to say that the windwheel lineage had the best cave dwelling per capita. This was a mansion. More importantly, Sumo could already feel traces of spirit chi surging in the cave dwelling. Ever since Sumo opened the cave dwelling, the entire 9th peak of Windwheel seemed to be slowly recovering. "All right, little junior brother, I've arranged the cave dwelling for you. We'll leave now. Today, you should familiarize yourself with the situation of the 9th peak. Tomorrow, come to the 2nd peak of Windwheel to find me," 2nd senior brother said. "All right, thank you, 2nd senior brother, 5th senior brother, and 7th senior sister." Sumo bowed. You can contact anyone in Windwheel with the Jade Slip of Windwheel. If there's anything, don't be careless, Su Yike said. You can even crush the Jade Slip at critical moments. We'll be there in an instant. Little junior brother, you can look for me for anything on Windwheel Mountain. 7th senior sister also said, "I'm the closest to you and will come often. If there's any problem, you must tell me. Also, the faction has given you a lot of rewards. You must use them wisely. Don't be greedy and advance rashly. If your foundation is not stable, it will be difficult for you to attain the great Tao in the future. Understand? Senior sister, if I find out that you've been using elixirs indiscriminately, I can take back your things at any time. Do you believe me?" Huh? The 2 senior brothers and senior sister were chattering. Sumo was hesitating. Looking again, the 7th senior sister flipped her hand, and the 2 storage bags awarded by the sect were actually in her hands. Sumo was completely dumbfounded. What kind of technique was this? He recalled Shun Lang's words about the godly thief on Windwheel Mountain. However, he did not expect it to be so godly. Those were the items in his storage bag. He did not feel anything at all. The storage bag had anti-theft functions. How did 7th senior sister do it? "Here, I'll return it to you." 7th senior sister smiled, but her smile was too ugly. "Thank you, 7th senior sister." Sumo broke out in a cold sweat as he took the storage bag. 7th senior sister's skullduggery was too amazing. However, Sumo completely understood 7th senior sister's instructions. 7th senior sister, please teach me. What kind of technique is this? At this moment, Sumo's eyes lit up. Because if he learned it, he would not lack resources in the future. He could get whatever he wanted. Hee. Little junior brother, we'll pass on our techniques to you in the future. Don't worry, 7th senior sister said. That's great. Sumo imagined that he would have skullduggery in the future. However, he suddenly thought of something. Oh yes, 7th senior sister, I have a pearl here for you to keep. With that, Sumo took out the brownish-yellow pearl from the storage bag. Chapter 89. Soul Gathering Pearl. 7th Senior Sister by Yi Feng held the pearl and sneered. Little junior brother, the people who chased you were probably after this pearl, right? It's not an ordinary thing. I think so, Sumo replied. Then, he told her what happened that day. Yellow ancient altar. Earth wheel? 7th Senior Sister raised her eyebrows slightly. 7th Junior Sister, what kind of ray does this soul gathering pearl belong to? Suyike asked. This soul gathering pearl, also known as soul detention pearl, can swallow living souls and summon dead souls. It's an extremely powerful magic treasure for setting up arrays. However, that kind of array should have been lost for a long time. And 7th Senior Sister glanced at 2nd Senior Brother. At this moment, 2nd Senior Brother's eyes flashed a touch of surprise. As the think tank of Windmill Mountain, Du Shushin obviously knew what kind of array it was. What kind of array? Suyike asked. 5-wheel array. Second senior brother's expression changed slightly. 5-wheel array. Suyike's expression also changed. Isn't that the 5-wheel forbidden array that has been lost for tens of thousands of years? Even 7th junior sister can't set it up? Yes, that is indeed the 5-wheel forbidden array. 7th junior sister said thoughtfully, with what I have learned, no one in the 5 wheels is worthy of my attention. But I definitely can't set up the 5-wheel forbidden array, and I don't even know about it. Because in the 5-wheel forbidden array, it is a forbidden technique that has long been destroyed. Moreover, it was destroyed by the founder himself. 7th junior sister doesn't know about arrays. 6th senior brother seemed to take a deep breath. Listening to their conversation, Sumo knew that 7th senior sister wasn't only a godly thief, but also a master of arrays. Secondly, she knew about the so-called 5-wheel forbidden array. That pearl really had a background. Someone set up a 5-wheel array outside the 5 wheels. Suyike thought of the mission area on the black jade slip and couldn't help but feel terrified. That was because it seemed to have formed 5 directions. Then, wouldn't the entire 5 wheels be in one big array? Du Shusheng, Suyike, and Bai Yifeng looked at each other. They all knew that this was a serious matter. However, even Bai Yifeng knew very little about the specific situation of the 5-wheel formation. Little junior brother, leave this pearl with me for now. You can cultivate in peace. We'll take care of everything else. 7th sister said to Sumo in a hurry. We'll go first. And Sumo didn't ask any more questions and nodded in agreement. Then he sent his 3 senior brothers and senior sisters out of the cave. However, 2nd senior brother actually turned around and said something very solemn. Little junior brother, I'll be waiting for you at the 2nd peak tomorrow morning. Don't be late for class. Huh? 2nd senior brother, don't worry. Sumo groaned inwardly. Cultivation was cultivation. Why did she have to attend classes? It seemed that the matter of the soul gathering pearl was not big enough. Otherwise, shouldn't they be taking a break? Behind them, 2nd senior brother and the other 2 left on the wind. However, they did not return to their own peaks. Instead, they headed straight for the first peak of the Windmill Peak. Sumo didn't care so much. At this time, he found that the entire first peak was no longer barren. The weeds had disappeared, and the dead vegetation was slowly recovering. Sumo thought to himself, I actually have a whole mountain. This is so exciting. In 2 days, I should get by Lai here. However, he is not a windmill disciple, so he can't stay for a long time, but at least for 2 days. Good brothers, share weal and woe together. The first person Sumo thought of was Bai Lai. At the same time, Sumo couldn't wait to return to the cave residence. First, he wanted to see the cave residence. Second, he wanted to see the storage bag given by the sect. This was enough to make him excited. Just now, he hoped that his 3 senior brothers and senior sisters would leave as soon as possible. Sumo quickly returned to the cave residence. 1 main and 3 auxiliary caves, a total of 4 big caves. Elixir room, scripture pavilion, refining cave, etc. Sumo walked inside and outside. Spacious and comfortable. Although it looked empty, except for some stone tables, stone chairs, and stone beds, there was almost nothing else. In the future, when Hung came back, he would be able to have his own cave residence. This was simply too generous. More importantly, the spirit energy here was extremely abundant. Although the spirit energy in this cave residence was not as good as the soul storage altar cave residence that Sumo cultivated in before, it was 5 to 6 times more than the cave residence at the mountain gate. Cultivating here would definitely yield twice the result with half the effort. This was the essential difference between the inner sect and the outer sect. The spirit energy on Yongjin Peak was probably concentrated in a few important cave residences, and the spirit energy in other places was extremely thin. But the Windmill sect was different. They used 1 peak to support 1 person. How could it be the same? After understanding this, Sumo suddenly felt that the Windmill sect was actually the best inner sect. But why was it so weak? Strange. However, he could feel that his senior brothers and senior sisters were absolutely sincere towards him. This was something that Sumo valued very much. After looking at the cave residents, Sumo sat cross-legged in the main cave, took out the storage bags given by the two sects, and opened them separately. Wow! At that moment, it was as if an ordinary person had opened two shiny bags of gold. Sumo was so excited that his body trembled. There were two big storage bags. There were a total of 20,000 talismans, 20,000 mid-grade spirit stones, 12 foundation establishment pills, 8 nascent soul dharma treasures, and 12 foundation breaking pills. Although he already knew the number of these things, when Sumo saw them with his own eyes, he still felt a little short of breath. He took a deep breath, and then silently activated the everlasting chi. After a while, Sumo finally calmed down. At the same time, he also remembered the words of his 7th senior sister. He knew that the foundation establishment pills could not be eaten casually. They could only be eaten after reaching the 9th level of chi refinement. Otherwise, his foundation would not be stable, and it would be harmful. Therefore, Sumo first categorized those things. 20,000 talismans were indeed of little value, because those were all low-level, 5-wheel talismans, which were of little significance to cultivators at the 7th or 8th level of chi refinement. Sumo stuffed them into a storage bag, ready to go to the Jubao Pavilion of the Inner Gate to exchange them for high-level talismans or other things needed. 20,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Sumo put them in a separate storage bag. These were his most important resources, because spirit stones could not only be used directly for cultivation, but also could be exchanged for anything. 12 foundation establishment pills, and 12 foundation breaking pills. Sumo also carefully packed them in a porcelain bottle. He definitely wouldn't eat all of these pills by himself. He could keep them for hung, or he could give 1 or 2 to others. Elixirs were even more valuable than spirit stones. Sometimes, good pills were hard to find. He could give Zhao Yunxing 1 foundation establishment pill. Sumo pondered. After all, Zhao Yunxing had given him a lot of things. 1 foundation establishment pill was enough to compare with all of them. However, many things could not be measured by value alone. He could give the foundation breaking pill to senior brother Shenlang and any senior brother from the Windwheel faction who really needed it. Senior brother Lu always wanted it, right? Tease him for a few days. To the people around him, Sumo would never be stingy. Of course, if he could exchange some treasures from senior brother Lu, he would definitely not mind. Wasn't he a master blacksmith? He pondered as he took care of them. Sumo was definitely a person who knew how to repay kindness. At this moment, Sumo suddenly thought of Huang Zhe and Deng Feng. Ever since they helped him out, he had never met them again. Faintly, Sumo felt a sense of longing in his heart. Chapter 90. The final reward given by the sect was, of course, the 8 nascent soul-level magic treasures. In theory, if a cultivator could use a magic treasure that was 1 level higher than their cultivation level, it was already not bad. In other words, aura refining cultivators had foundation building magic treasures, or foundation building cultivators had core formation magic treasures. That way, in a battle of the same level, they would have a certain advantage. A cultivator who could possess 2 or more magic treasures that could transcend levels was already a very powerful figure. However, if they had magic treasures that were 2 or more realms higher than their own, then they would not be able to fully display the power of the magic treasure. For example, the level 9 Chi refining Selectin Sect female cultivator Sumo met outside the Punishing Heart Cliff. The white bone god stunning bow she used was a nascent soul-level magic treasure, but it couldn't do anything to Shun Lang, who was in the middle stage of foundation building. To be able to use magic treasures without restrictions, one had to be at least a nascent soul-level cultivator. Therefore, even though Sumo obtained those nascent soul-level magic treasures, she couldn't completely transform them into battle power. Currently, she still couldn't completely control those magic treasures. Moreover, because they were given an order, the Heaven Wheel and Earth Wheel cultivators tacitly took out 4 very ordinary nascent soul-level magic treasures. Nascent soul-level magic treasures were, of course, divided into 3 grades. high, middle, and low. What Sumo obtained were actually all low-grade nascent soul-level magic treasures, but low-grade was still nascent soul-level. For Sumo, they were all good treasures. One had to know that even late-stage foundation-building cultivators might not necessarily be able to obtain a nascent soul-level magic treasure. Among the 8 magic treasures, 2 flying swords were considered useful. Aside from her mysterious broken bamboo pole, Sumo didn't have any powerful offensive magic treasures. If she had 2 nascent soul-level flying swords, then her battle power would naturally increase by a lot. In addition, there was also a Heaven Wheel Immortal Boat, which was a flying magic treasure. It was really not bad. Its speed was far faster than 5 sails, and it didn't need spirit stones to activate it. Sumo liked it quite a bit. There was also an Earth Wheel Shield, which was a defensive magic treasure. With it, even late-stage foundation-building cultivators would find it difficult to kill Sumo. The other 4 magic treasures were more interesting. It was something similar to the storm tent. He wondered if he could use it in the future. One of them was actually a pill storage bottle. Sumo simply stored all of her pills in it. To be honest, Sumo couldn't figure out the other 2. If there's a chance, I'll ask one of the senior brothers. Sumo casually put away the 2 magic treasures. With these magic treasures, Sumo was certain. Cultivators below the foundation establishment realm were definitely no match for him. If he did it well, he would be able to contend with an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator and even kill them. Anyway, after spending a lot of effort, Sumo finally sorted out these things, and her heart gradually calmed down and felt at ease. Entering the windmill meant that he had completed his goal of entering the inner sect. Sumo's next goal was to build her foundation. In fact, this goal was no longer difficult for Sumo. With the foundation-building pill in his hands, his chances of reaching the foundation-building realm had greatly increased. As long as he reached LV9 of Chi cultivation, foundation establishment would not be a problem for him. However, with the improvement of his realm and vision, Sumo knew that the foundation-building realm was nothing to him. In front of a strong cultivator, a foundation-building realm cultivator would instantly turn into ashes. The road of cultivation was long, and he had to cultivate steadily. That was the way to go. Therefore, after calming himself down, Sumo began to cultivate. LV7 of Chi cultivation. Now, Sumo's realm was relatively stable. His immortal Chi had also entered the 2nd minor level. Everything was going in a positive direction. It was a quiet night. There were still 2 hours left before the appointed time with the 2nd senior brother. Sumo opened his eyes. He had been cultivating normally that night. The spiritual energy in the Chinkuan cave was really abundant. This night's cultivation was comparable to 7 days of cultivation in the cave at the mountain gate. He felt refreshed and extremely comfortable. Sumo got up and stretched his body, then took a deep breath. Then, he turned his hand and took out the windmill jade slip that 7th senior sister gave him from his storage bag. There was a map of the windmills in the jade slip. Although 7th senior sister had already told him that the 2nd senior brother's mountain was at the easternmost part of the 9th peak, Sumo still decided to take a look. He probed with his divine sense and unfolded the map. The windmill lineage did not occupy a large area. It only occupied a radius of 700 kilometers within the 5 wheels. The 9 mountain peaks were spread out over a 700-kilometer radius. Suyike had asked Sumo to study the coordinates of the windmill lineage. Therefore, Sumo could not help but take a closer look. The arrangement of the 9 peaks of the windmill lineage seemed to be messy, but gradually, Sumo found some clues. According to the area controlled by the windmill lineage, the entire windmill lineage formed a circular area with a radius of 700 kilometers. The 9th peak where he was actually the center of the circle. The distance between the 9th peak and the other 8 peaks was not equal, and it was even a little messy. The closest 7th peak was less than 30 kilometers away, but the furthest 5th peak was 700 kilometers away. However, Sumo's eyes narrowed, and he had an idea, because he suddenly realized that if all the other peaks were pushed to the orbit 700 kilometers away, then if they were connected, they would form an octagon. The first peak of the windmill lineage was at the westernmost, the second peak was at the easternmost, the third peak was at the northernmost, the fourth peak was at the southernmost, the fifth peak was at the northwest, the sixth peak was at the southwest, the seventh peak was at the southeast, and the eighth peak was at the northeast. Coincidentally, there was a peak in all directions. And the ninth peak was the center of the 8 peaks. The windmill lineage itself seemed to be a huge formation, and there seemed to be a hidden universe inside. However, Sumo still did not understand. He just had a vague feeling that it would not be a coincidence. Instead, it was a special kind of arrangement. Using the peaks as a formation, that kind of arrangement was definitely not ordinary. There must be a secret about the windmill lineage, Sumo thought in his heart. After seeing the location of the second peak, Sumo put away the jade slip and directly left the cave abode. He went straight to the second peak on the wind. He just hoped that he would not be late. They had not known each other for a long time, so Sumo could not figure out the second senior brother's true personality. If he was late, the ruler would fall, and he might not be able to block it. The second peak of the windmill was only 300 kilometers away from Sumo's ninth peak. At 7:15, Sumo had already landed on the second peak. The second peak of the windmill was completely different from the first and ninth peaks. This place did not seem to be chaotic, nor was it barren. Instead, it was dense with divine chi, birds were chirping, and flowers were fragrant. It was like a fairyland. On the peak, there was a 2-story green bamboo building. It was elegant, quiet, and extremely elegant. Beside the small building, there were winding rivers and countless lotus flowers. There was even a boat anchored on the water. There were also pavilions on the water. Sumo could not help but praise in his heart. Second senior brother is indeed scholarly. He is really an elegant person. The scenery here was not comparable to eldest senior brother's first peak. At this moment, Sumo had just arrived near the small building, and he heard second senior brother's chanting coming from the small building. His voice was loud and echoed continuously. She could only hear 5 wheels of wind, majestic and majestic, drinking, laughing, cursing, crazy, only I have a soul. In the dark, in the bone sect, the sky and earth collapsed, and the water was hot and deep. Chapter 91. His voice was loud and clear, and it could be heard for several miles. In the small building, Scholar Do seemed to be giving a lecture, but in fact, there were only 2 people in the entire second peak, including Sumo. Little junior brother, you're here. Not bad, you're 15 minutes early. Second senior brother's voice came from the small building. Good morning, second senior brother. Sumo was still thinking about the poem and melody that she heard just now. However, she did not dare to treat second senior brother poorly. She answered as she quickly went upstairs. On the second floor of the small building, second senior brother Do was dressed in a white robe and sitting on a bamboo chair. He looked solemn, holding a folding fan with both hands and a ruler beside him. Little junior brother, sit. Second senior brother pointed at the chair opposite him with his fan. Thank you, second senior brother. Sumo looked at second senior brother and felt a little nervous. What kind of lesson is this? One-on-one. That's too formal. In Sumo's memory, one-on-one lessons were quite expensive. Sigh. Is the second senior brother addicted to being a teacher? But it's fine as long as he doesn't have to pay tuition fees. Is second senior brother thinking about the rewards from the sect like sixth senior brother? Ahem. Second senior brother deliberately coughed twice and said, Little junior brother, did you hear my recitation just now? Yes. Sumo collected her thoughts and said hurriedly, I heard it. Second senior brother is indeed elegant and refined. If the second peak of Windmill is really an immortal realm, then it must be the best. Second senior brother's recitation just now was even more pleasant to the ears, like celestial music. I'm very impressed. Sumo's flattery was very, very, very naked. However, second senior brother actually accepted it calmly, as if that was what it was all about. His serious expression became more serious at first, then relaxed slightly. Yes, little junior brother is indeed smart. You understood the essence of it just by watching and listening. Second senior brother nodded. Sumo also accepted it calmly, without blushing. At that moment, if there was a third person present, that person would probably blush. These two people were indeed from the same sect. Little junior brother, do you know what I'm chanting? Second senior brother asked. Huh? Sumo doesn't know. Sumo was definitely a cooperative student. She knew what she should know and what she shouldn't know. Only such a teacher's lessons would be interesting. Otherwise, if you knew it, how could teacher be so smug? Second senior brother, please advise me. Sumo's eyes were filled with a thirst for knowledge and sincere expectation. That was the teacher's favorite gaze. Sure enough, second senior brother nodded with satisfaction, and his serious face eased a little. Little junior brother, it doesn't matter if you don't know. Today, second senior brother will tell you about it. Second senior brother glanced at Sumo. Sumo's expression remained unchanged. Second senior brother was even more satisfied. Little junior brother, I only have one class. Second senior brother was in a good mood. He seemed to be afraid that Sumo would feel burdened. Oh, what a pity. Sumo pretended to be disappointed. Second senior martial brother, you are knowledgeable, knowledgeable, and knowledgeable. The lecture just now was too good. Unfortunately, it's only once. The lecture just now was too good. Sumo was too shameless. Second senior brother hadn't even started to teach. Yes, second senior brother didn't mind. Instead, he nodded solemnly. It doesn't matter. If you have any questions in the future, you can ask me anytime. I will tell you everything I know and guide you with all my heart. Cultivation has always been about learning more and asking more questions. Yes. Thank you, second senior martial brother. Sumo was overjoyed. A pair of teacher and student, and a pair of shameless senior martial brother. The atmosphere in the class between the two of them was simply too good. Second senior brother, who had always pretended to be serious, was now amiable. Sumo was finally not nervous anymore. Little junior martial brother, what I just recited was the secret crazy divination song on my 5 wheels. Second senior brother's expression was slightly serious, but this time he wasn't pretending. Crazy divination song? Of course, Sumo had never heard of it. However, she felt that the content was indeed a little crazy and even incomprehensible. Yes, crazy divination song. It was written by the last grand cultivator of the wind wheel lineage 10,000 years ago. Since then, the wind wheel lineage has been passed down from generation to generation. The last grand cultivator 10,000 years ago. Why is it the last grand cultivator? Sumo asked. Because for the past 10,000 years, there hasn't been a cultivator of that realm in the wind wheel lineage. Second senior martial brother sighed. What realm? Sumo was curious. The soul transformation realm. Second senior martial brother said slowly. The soul transformation realm? Sumo gasped. Above the nascent soul realm? Of course. Second senior martial brother smiled faintly. Child cultivator, chi refinement, foundation building, core formation, nascent soul, and soul transformation. Above the nascent soul realm is the soul transformation realm. What about above the soul transformation realm? Divine tribulation. Above the divine tribulation. Immortality. What about above the immortality realm? Huh. Second senior martial brother looked at Sumo and laughed. Little junior martial brother, you've already reached the immortality realm? Since you're already immortality, what else do you want? Isn't cultivation for immortality? Sumo didn't comment, but he wasn't satisfied with second senior martial brother's answer. Was immortality really the end of cultivation? Second senior martial brother, are there any soul transformation realm cultivators in the 5 wheels? No. Second senior martial brother sneered. If there were soul transformation realm cultivators, how could the 5 wheels be so chaotic? How could the Northern Selectan sect raise their heads? Oh, then there were many in the past. 10,000 years ago, the 5 wheels had 5 soul transformation realm cultivators. They were even close to the ancestral master's realm. What realm was our ancestral master in? The great perfection of the late soul transformation realm. Second senior martial brother's eyes were full of hope. Three souls in one breath, soul, can be real. That kind of realm is fascinating. Three souls in one breath, soul, can be real. Sumo didn't quite understand what he meant. Second senior martial brother, have you ever seen an immortality realm cultivator who has passed the divine tribulation? Sumo asked. Hee. Second senior martial brother laughed at himself. To be honest, little junior martial brother, the wind wheel is very small, and the five wheels is not big. In the whole pure land, the white bone continent is only a corner. I haven't even seen a soul transformation realm cultivator with my own eyes. So how can I see the divine tribulation or immortality realm? That kind of earth-shattering almighty can only be found by chance. I heard that in the entire white bone continent, the highest realm for a cultivator is the divine tribulation. There is no immortality realm. Immortality is just a legend. Second senior martial brother sighed. Divine tribulation, immortality. Sumo was silent. That kind of realm was even more out of reach for him. Hee. Second senior martial brother changed the topic. Little junior martial brother, do you know why there are no soul transformation realm cultivators in the five wheels? Where are the former five great soul transformation realm cultivators? Why? Sumo asked. Because of a catastrophe 10,000 years ago. Second senior martial brother's expression was solemn. A catastrophe 10,000 years ago? Sumo's heart stirred. Second senior martial brother, is that referring to the accident 10,000 years ago in the five wheels? It is said that the five wheels suffered heavy damage and is no longer as strong as before. Chapter 92. In a small building on the second peak of the Windmill Sect, second brother was telling Sumo about the past of the Five Wheels sect. Little junior brother. Second senior brother Du Shusheng held the folding fan in his hand and looked at Sumo. You're already at level 7 of the Qi refinement realm, and you're extremely talented. Foundation establishment realm is just around the corner. So, you should know a lot of things. Please tell me. Sumo said. I can only tell you what I know. Second senior brother laughed bitterly. Our world of cultivation is called the Pure Land. I don't know where it came from. The Pure Land is boundless, and the Bone Mainland is only a small part of it. It's said that there's an endless chasm outside the Bone Mainland. Only the deity Tribulation can fly. The Bone Mainland has been through millions of years and changes. After the rise of cultivators, there were many immortal sects, and there were many who flourished and withered. Five Wheels was founded 30,000 years ago, and its founder's Taoist title was Saint Wheel. His final cultivation level was Peak Late Stage Soul Transformation Realm. Saint Wheel, Peak Late Stage Soul Transformation Realm. Sumo listened quietly and didn't speak. This was the first time he heard of the founder's Taoist title. Five Wheels was located in the northwest of the Bone Mainland. It started as a small immortal sect, and later became a first-class immortal sect. Back then, Saint Wheel's founder had 5 disciples, and each of them was extremely talented. They were known as the Five Wheels' 5 disciples, and each ruled one wheel. That was the heyday of Five Wheels. They went north and made the Selectan sect submit. They went south and extended their influence to the Bone Mainland. Everyone in the Bone Mainland knew about Five Wheels. For a time, it was the most glorious. Second senior brother's eyes were filled with hope, as if he had returned to the past of Five Wheels. But second senior brother had a pained expression. Sumo also frowned. He knew that the turning point of Five Wheels had come. The founder failed to break through the deity tribulation. The 5 disciples, for some reason, turned against each other. In the end? Second senior brother's voice paused. In the end, what happened? Sumo asked. In the end, it caused a war. In the end of the 5 soul transformation stage cultivators, 2 died and 3 were injured. The remaining disciples who were implicated suffered even more casualties, second senior brother said. 2 dead and 3 injured? Didn't they all die? That's for another time. At that time, the Wind Wheel Ancestor and the Fire Wheel Ancestor died in battle, while the Heaven Wheel Ancestor The earth wheel ancestor and the water wheel ancestor were seriously injured. Then, not long after, they all died one after another. Second senior brother let out a long sigh. From then on, 5 wheels could be said to have collapsed. Even though the inheritance was not severed, the 5 chakras were gradually moving away from each other, and the glory was no more. In the future, the ancestral masters would only be at the late nascent soul stage. It couldn't be compared to the past. The power of 5 wheels is only maintained in the northwest of Bones, and they're in a stalemate with the Slekton sect. Second senior brother, those who can cultivate to the soul transformation realm are naturally not ordinary people. Back then, the 5 great soul transformation ancestral masters were able to reach the stage of a great battle. Just what was the reason? Sumo asked. Second senior brother shook his head with a wry smile. This is the unsolved mystery of the 5 wheels. Sumo was speechless. Unsolved mystery? Is this the reason why the 5 wheels seem to be united but actually divided? There should be some speculations and clues, right? Hee. Second senior brother stood up, took 2 steps, and smiled bitterly. The 5 great ancestral masters seemed to have discussed it and have a tacit understanding with each other. Within the 5 wheels, there is no reason for it to be passed down. There are only some speculations, but I can't be sure. What speculations? The deity tribulation theory or the bloodline theory? Second senior brother frowned. Sumo didn't understand. Within the 5 wheels, there are 2 kinds of speculations. The so-called deity tribulation has 2 kinds of speculations. One is that the ancestral masters failed to advance to the deity tribulation because they were plotted against, and then the 5 ancestral masters suspected each other, which led to a great battle. The second is that the ancestral masters failed to advance to the deity tribulation, but left behind a treasure that could help one person advance to the deity tribulation, which led to a great battle between the 5 ancestral masters. Is this speculation credible? We cannot believe it, but we can't believe it completely, second senior brother said. These 2 theories can indeed explain the great battle between the 5 ancestral masters. However, I have a feeling that things aren't that simple. Then what do you mean by bloodline? Sumo said. The theory of bloodline seems a bit too complicated. Second senior brother raised his eyebrows again. Little junior brother, you haven't cultivated for long. According to the legends, the cultivators in the Pure Land realm actually have 2 cultivation methods. 2 cultivation methods? Sumo was stunned. Wasn't cultivation about cultivating hard, absorbing spirit chi, and gradually becoming stronger? However, different cultivation methods had different effects. Different resources created different cultivators. However, the essence was the same. Were there any other cultivation methods? Second senior brother saw the doubt in Sumo's eyes. Little junior brother, there's indeed another cultivation method, which is bloodline cultivation. Bloodline cultivation? Sumo's heart stirred. That's right, bloodline. Second senior brother nodded. However, we have only heard of this cultivation method, and we don't know the specific method. Some people say that bloodline cultivation is the innate skill of the bloodline. Based on the family as a unit, they are born with a certain skill which only needs to be activated by the cultivator at a specific time. Some people also say that bloodline cultivation is a kind of inheritance. It can only be passed down from one generation to the next. For every person who inherits it, one person dies. However, this kind of inheritance can almost completely inherit the inheritor's ability. However, no matter what it is, the inheritance of bloodline is recognized to be far better than thousands of years of cultivation. Bloodline is a shortcut to immortal cultivation, and you can reach the sky in a single step. Second senior brother's words made Sumo's heart tremble. She thought to herself, why am I not the descendant of a special cultivation family, or have a great master's inheritance? What a pity! Second senior brother, are there any families or sects with bloodline inheritance on the Whitebone land? I don't think so. Second senior brother shook his head. But, second senior brother paused and asked, little junior brother, you are not familiar with the Whitebone land, so you don't know about the 3 holy lands of the Whitebone land, right? I don't know. Sumo shook her head. In fact, second senior brother's question was nonsense. What could Sumo know? Would she need to go to class if she knew? However, Sumo cooperated with him obediently. The White Bone Land is basically in the shape of a crescent moon, and it's divided into the south, middle, and north regions. The so-called northwest of the Selectan sect is actually the north region. However, the entire land is to the west, so people call it the northwest celestial region. The south, middle, and north celestial regions each have a holy land. However, the situation is different. Second senior brother held the fan in his hand and gently waved it. It seems that this class is not bad. At this moment, Sumo was listening very carefully. The so-called three holy lands are the south region's Wan Huang Temple, the central region's Immortal Void, and the north region's Holy Wheel historical site. Second senior brother smiled and said, "Don't they sound like the three deadly lands?" "Oh, indeed." Sumo also smiled. "However, since they're called the three holy lands, I don't think they're deadly lands, right?" "Haha, little junior brother, you're right. Let's talk about the central region's Immortal Void. It's called Immortal Void because it's ethereal and hard to find. However, every 1,000 years, there will be disciples traveling the White Bone Land to do good and eliminate evil. Moreover, that person's cultivation level must be extremely high." "How high?" Sumo could not help but ask curiously. "The deity's tribulation." Second senior brother smiled helplessly. "When the Immortal Void appears, it must be the deity's tribulation." Chapter 93. When the Immortal Void realm appears, it must be a god tribulation. Hearing second senior brother's words, Sumo was so shocked that she didn't know what to say. "Second senior brother, how powerful are deity tribulation cultivators? Once the god's test appears, the 5 wheels will be destroyed with just a lift of the hand." Second senior brother shook his head helplessly. "Huh?" Sumo nodded. Originally, he thought that he had reached the 7th level of chi refining in less than a year, so he was a little complacent. But now, it seemed that he was still an ant. Second senior brother continued. "As for the southern region's Myriad Desolation Temple, it's said to be located at the southernmost tip of the Bone Continent, and the surrounding 5,000 kilometers is filled with desolation and countless ferocious beasts. However, the existence of the Wan Huang Temple suppressed everything. It was said that there were only 300 disciples in the Wan Huang Temple. However, they're all above the nascent soul level. 300 or even more." Sumo grinned. "How is that possible? Don't you have a cultivation boy? No chi refining, foundation establishment, or core fusion. Then how did the nascent soul appear?" He. Second senior brother laughed. "That brings us back to the previous question. Didn't you ask me if there are any clans or sects with bloodline inheritances on the Bone Continent? Is Wan Huang Temple a bloodline cultivation sect?" Sumo said, I'm not sure. However, the Thousand Desolation Temple has another name, the Immortal Temple. Rumor has it that the Wan Huang Temple has 300 disciples, but they are all young, so it is also called the Immortal Temple. Bloodline cultivation, Immortal Temple. Sumo nodded. Then what is our northern region's sacred wheel historical site? The Holy Wheel Ancient Ruins, Sai. Second senior brother sighed. The Holy Wheel Ancient Ruins are really a dead place. In the south of the Five Paths Immortal Domain, there was the White Bone Ridge. The White Bone Ridge meandered for thousands of miles, and within it, there was a ruin that was less than 100 miles in radius. It was the Sacred Wheel Ancient Ruins. Its center is called Silent Death Valley. Silent Death Valley? Sumo's heart trembled violently. Fortunately, he remembered Mu Jinghong's words, otherwise he would have cried out. Didn't he walk out from Silent Death Valley? 50,000 miles away from the Five Paths Immortal Domain. However, when senior sister Mu brought him along, it didn't seem to be that far. Could it be that senior sister Mu used some kind of special technique? Otherwise, how could a journey of 70,000 kilometers take less than half a day? Of course, second senior brother did not know what Sumo was thinking. The Holy Wheel ancient ruins are said to have existed together with the White Bone continent. Legend has it that it's the remains of an immortal from the White Bone continent. It's like a scar on the White Bone. In Silent Death Valley, gods came to bury their dead, and immortals came to return to silence. These 8 words were definitely not false. On the White Bone continent, there had been divine tribulation cultivators who had entered Silent Death Valley. Unfortunately, he never came out again. None of the deity tribulation cultivators came out. Sumo deliberately asked, in surprise. However, he was actually a little pleased with himself. Because wouldn't he be more powerful than a deity tribulation cultivator? At the same time, he also pondered over the white bones he saw in the Silent Death Valley. Could they be deity tribulation cultivators? Were they going to climb? Back then, Sumo saw 9 skeletons, but he was sure that there were more skeletons in the depths of the fog in Silent Death Valley. No cultivator has ever come out of Silent Death Valley. Therefore, Silent Death Valley became a forbidden area for cultivators, and no one dared to enter it again. Even the Holy Wheel ancient ruins on the White Bone Ridge were rarely visited. Among the 3 holy lands, the Holy Wheel ancient ruins was a dead place. At the same time, it was also the most powerful place. The immortal Void Realm and the immortal Temple had deity tribulations. However, the Holy Wheel ancient ruins was a place that even deity tribulations didn't dare to go to. Hee. Sumo nodded. However, after hearing Second Senior Brother's words, he thought about why Mu Jinghong was outside Silent Death Valley. Sumo believed that it was definitely not a simple coincidence. It seemed that the people of 5 Wheels didn't know that Mu Jinghong went to the Holy Wheel ancient ruins alone. After pondering for a moment, Sumo asked again, then Second Senior Brother, what does this have to do with 5 Wheels? Even if the Immortal Temple is a bloodline cultivation sect, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with us. You have to put everything together. Second Senior Brother sat down again. Have you forgotten what the Taoist name of our founding ancestor was? Holy Wheel, Sumo said in surprise. Could it be that our founding ancestor has something to do with the Holy Wheel ancient ruins? Second Senior Brother shook his head. Maybe it's just a coincidence. However, according to the bloodline in 5 Wheels, our founding ancestor had a trace of the Holy Wheel's bloodline. Later, the founding ancestor of 5 Wheels fought for that drop of bloodline. Oh, Sumo finally understood. Second Senior Brother, these are just guesses. No one knows the real reason. Second Senior Brother nodded. Of course, it's also possible that the other 4 branches know some of the reasons. However, they keep it a secret and compete with each other in the dark. Second Senior Brother smiled. The other 4 branches don't know about the Wind Wheel faction's crazy divination song, right? Therefore, we don't know what secrets the other branches have either. However, the Wind Wheel 9 revolutions overturned the universe. You should have heard of these words. However, they may not understand the specific meaning. What's the specific meaning? Sumo asked. Second Senior Brother looked at Sumo meaningfully and shook his head. You'll know in the future. It's not the right time now. When is the right time? Sumo asked. When is the right time? Second Senior Brother couldn't help but laugh, and then sighed softly. Little Junior Brother, the situation of the 5 Wheels is complicated and confusing. The time will be tomorrow or in another 100 years. It all depends on who can't wait. Sumo felt that his Second Senior Brother had said something that was extremely mysterious. Now, the 5 Wheels is only maintaining an illusion of peace on the surface. In fact, each has its own way. If there weren't a few nascent soul grand ancestors keeping each other in check, I'm afraid there would have been a war. Then, what should our Wind Wheel faction do? Sumo asked. At this moment, Sumo already understood that Second Senior Brother definitely needed her to do something after saying so much. Little Junior Brother, Second Senior Brother looked at Sumo solemnly. What can you do now? You just need to improve your cultivation. In fact, the crazy divination song left by the ancestral master already has guidance. Sumo looked at Second Senior Brother. Drunkenness, laughter, cursing, and madness. Isn't that the state of our wind wheel faction? Second senior brother opened his folding fan and sneered. Little junior brother, before you got on the wind wheel faction, you must have heard many people's comments about us in the five wheels, right? Indeed. Sumo thought of the comments and nodded with a smile. Down and out, crazy, and not doing proper work. Ha! Second senior brother must have heard of those comments. He looked at Sumo and said, Little junior brother, let me tell you, if there's one faction in the five wheels that is the most clear-headed, it's our wind wheel faction. Sumo did not speak. Instead, she waited for second senior brother to continue. Little junior brother, do you know what the mission of the wind wheel faction is? Second senior brother asked. What? We're not doing it for the wind wheel faction. We're doing it to protect the legacy. Second senior brother's expression turned stern. At that moment, Sumo felt an inexplicable power. Second senior brother did not seem to be the scholar who pretended to be serious at all. Chapter 94. Hee. Second senior brother seemed to know what Sumo was thinking and could not help but smile. Junior, don't think that our wind wheel sect has fewer people, but our combat power may not necessarily be inferior to the heaven wheel and earth wheel experts. Which one of our wind wheel people can't kill one of them in the five wheels sect? One day, you'll understand. Huh? Sumo was slightly taken aback by her words. Could the wind wheel faction really fight against over 10,000 people with just 9 people? Second senior brother, then I might be a hindrance to our windmill. I'm not good at fighting, Sumo said honestly. He knew very well how capable he was. Second senior brother closed his folding fan and suddenly felt a sense of heroism. Little junior brother, if you can't do it, then I'll give it to you. As for us windmills, we can't do it. Don't worry, we just have to work hard and cultivate. One day, we will be able to complete the 9 revolutions of the wind wheels and overturn the universe. Thank you, second senior brother. Sumo braced herself, but she had no confidence at all. At the same time, he was also pondering what exactly was the wind wheel 9 revolutions. Little junior brother, you've said so much. Actually, what you need to do now is very simple, second senior brother said again. What are you doing? Safety and cultivation. Second senior brother smiled faintly. Little junior brother, do you know who's chasing after you outside the 5 Paths Immortal Domain? I don't think it's the Slekton sect. Sumo couldn't help but sneer as she recalled what happened that day. The skeleton girl outside the Punishing Heart Cliff must be from the Slekton sect. However, later on, all cultivators should be people with 5 wheels. Otherwise, there would be no need to hide. Second senior brother said, that day, if it wasn't for Mu Jinghong's thunderous methods to suppress everything, I wouldn't have been able to kill him. I'm afraid you still have a lot of troubles ahead of you. Second senior brother, which faction is the one who wants to kill me from? From what you described, you should be an earth wheel or fire wheel practitioner. Earth wheel, fire wheel. Sumo didn't say anything, but the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. They wanted to kill you, except for the bead. Another possibility is that the so-called Windmill 9 revolutions is because they don't want us to have 9 disciples. Second senior brother smiled coldly. They have always listed the 9th disciple of the Windmill sect as a target they must kill. Windmill's 9th disciple, a must-kill target. Sumo was stunned. He had not expected this at all. Wasn't he walking into a fire pit? Second senior brother, did the 9th disciple of Windmill get killed in the past? How many did you kill? Sumo asked. Ahem. Second senior brother was non-committal and changed the topic. Little junior brother, don't worry. Since you have joined Windmill and all of us have acknowledged you as our leader, we will not let you go. Your safety is Windmill's concern. Furthermore, no matter how arrogant the various branches were, with the ancestral soul peak's celestial decree, they wouldn't be able to do anything to the 5 wheels. But you'd better be careful. Remember senior apprentice brother's words. First build your foundation, then move on. Junior brother, as long as you can reach the foundation establishment stage, the strength of our Windwheel faction will increase by several times. Every inch you advance, the entire Windwheel faction will advance by 1 foot. Do you understand? Huh? How could Sumo be at ease? But he still braced himself and replied, Okay, don't worry, second senior brother. I will definitely work hard in my cultivation. But he felt bitter inside. What did he do to become the target of killing? Good. Second senior brother patted Sumo's shoulder in a gratified manner. Little junior brother, the Windwheel lineage belongs to you. What I told you today is just to let you know some things, but don't feel too pressured. If the sky falls, your 8 senior brothers and sisters will naturally hold it up for you. Thank you, second senior brother, Sumo said. But in his heart, he wondered if they were reliable. If they were, why did all the previous disciples die? Class dismissed. Second senior brother laughed, then turned around and disappeared from the small building. Little junior brother, I'm going to find eldest senior brother for a drink. Go back to the mountain yourself. Drink? Why didn't you bring me along? It's your first time here, and you can't even get a meal? This second senior brother is too impolite. Sumo was stunned for a while. Then he slowly walked down the stairs and returned to the 9th peak. On the Windwheel 9th peak, Sumo returned to his cave residence. Today's second senior brother's so-called class was enough for Sumo to digest. Sumo organized what second senior brother had said in his heart. This world of cultivation was called the Pure Land, and it was unknown how big it was. The Whitebone continent was only a corner of it. It was shaped like a crescent moon, and it was divided into 3 regions: south, middle, and north. Within each of the 3 regions, there was a holy land: Wanhuang Temple, Immortal Void Temple, and Sacred Wheel Historical Site. There were 2 ways to cultivate: chi refinement and bloodline inheritance. Cultivation levels. Above nascent soul, there were soul transformation, deity tribulation, and undying realms. This broadened Sumo's knowledge. In his eyes, the cultivation world was many times larger than before. The path of the 5 wheels was even more difficult to see. The Sacred Wheel Patriarch opened the mountain, then fell. His 5 soul transformation disciples fought for no reason and fell one after another. After that, the 5 lineages were divided, and each did their own thing. In fact, they all wanted to be the strongest and suppress all the other lineages. The Windwheel lineage was for the inheritance of the 5 wheels. Was the Windwheel lineage really that special? The matter about the 5 wheels was actually a bit confusing. There were some things that second senior brother only speculated about. There were also some things that second senior brother didn't make clear. Sumo was also a bit apprehensive. Second senior brother's words were full of lies and lies. As for his current situation, it seemed to be a bit awkward. The 9th disciple of Windwheel was actually someone that the other lineages wanted to kill. Wasn't this the same as putting himself on a fire to roast? It seemed like he had to be careful. However, no matter what, second senior brother's last words were definitely not a problem. Safety and cultivation. Sumo understood that everything else was fleeting. Only his own strength was the king. No matter what he did, without strength it was useless. In fact, this was something that Sumo had always understood, and it was also the biggest motivation for his cultivation. He was able to directly enter the inner sect and receive the attention of senior brother Windwheel, as well as everything that Mu Jinghong had done for him. It probably had a lot to do with him reaching the 6th level of chi refinement in less than a year. If he hadn't been able to cultivate, things wouldn't have turned out this way. No one would waste time on a good-for-nothing. A fire wheel or earth wheel expert wouldn't even be interested in killing him. This seemed to be a very dark humor. However, this was the truth. To be killed, one needed a certain level of strength. Otherwise, who would be so bored as to crush ants every day, especially ants that posed no threat? The world was interesting like this. Those who weren't capable would stand aside. Those who were capable would have many enemies. However, everyone yearned to be capable. If you wanted to be safe forever, you had to have the strength to crush everything. This was the case for Sumo. Therefore, he didn't dwell on the things that second senior brother said to him. Sumo would always let go of things that he couldn't understand or that were unnecessary. At dusk, Sumo left the cave and went straight to Jubao Pavilion at Yongjin Peak. Cultivation was still fundamental, and self-protection was the best guarantee. Therefore, he wanted to exchange for some high-quality spiritual food to assist in his cultivation. He wanted to build his foundation in the shortest time possible. Originally, he could have gone to the intersect's Jubao Pavilion in the Tianlun area. However, after considering the familiarity, price, and especially safety, he decided to go to Jubao Pavilion at Yongjin Peak. After all, he could also sell high-quality spiritual food there. Moreover, there was still a little advantage for intersect disciples to go to Yongjin Peak. Chapter 95. Although it was already dusk, Yongjin Peak was still very lively. 5 wheels and 7 meridians. If one were to consider the number of people, it would still be considered as Yongjin Peak. Cultivators at level 7 Qi refinement would be selected by the intersect. Therefore, in the entire Yongjin Peak, apart from special people, no one could ride the wind. Therefore, everyone would take a few more glances at the cultivators who rode the wind. As a matter of fact, as soon as Sumo rode the wind, he received a certain amount of attention. Actually, Sumo wanted to keep a low profile, but his actions were indeed a little high profile. However, there was no other way. Ever since he could ride the wind, Sumo felt a little tired from walking. Sumo landed not far away from Jubao Pavilion, still wearing the same tattered clothes. He could not bear to wear the clothes that 7th senior sister made for him. Perhaps it would be cooler to wear rags. However, this did not affect the respect that the outer sect disciples of 5 Wheels had for Sumo. Senior Brother Su. Hello, Senior Brother Su. Senior Brother Su, you're here. There was no one on Yongjin Peak who did not know Sumo. At this moment, almost all the disciples greeted Sumo passionately and reverently. If it was said that when Sumo came to Yongjin Peak a few days ago, everyone was still a little unconvinced and had some doubts in their hearts. After all, making an exception to enter the inner sect at level 6 Qi refinement was a bit of a cheap trick. There was definitely jealousy in everyone's heart. However, on this day, Sumo rode the wind, which meant that he was a pure level 7 Qi refinement cultivator. This was enough to shut up all the gossipers. In just a few days, he had advanced another level. How did Sumo cultivate? Ordinary cultivators would not be able to achieve this in a few years, or even a lifetime. How did this guy who was born as a beggar break through like a hot knife through butter? Everyone could not figure out, but no one dared to ask. Their eyes were filled with shock and fear. With this speed, he would probably be able to build his foundation soon, right? Su-Mo politely greeted everyone and tried to look as calm as possible before entering the quest pavilion. Senior Brother Su. Senior Brother Su. The 2 disciples in the 4th level of the Qi refining realm in the Jubao Pavilion were surprised to see Sumo. Sumo was now a famous figure in 5 Wheels. Number 1 in 10,000 years was not an exaggeration. They probably didn't expect that Sumo, who had entered the intersect, would still visit Yongjin Peak's Jubao Pavilion. Is Senior Martial Brother Yang not here? Sumo was asking the real manager of Treasure Gathering Pavilion, Yang Xiao of the Fire Will lineage. The last time he came to the Treasure Gathering Pavilion, Yang Xiao gave him a discount, replying to Senior Martial Brother Su. Senior Brother Yang just went out with Junior Sister Xiao. A hint of playfulness and ambiguity flashed through the eyes of one of the 4th level Qi refining disciples. However, if Senior Brother Su has any urgent matters, we can immediately contact Senior Brother Yang. Oh, Sumo thought to herself that Xiao Chuya seemed to be very close to that Yang Xiao. Could it be that she was going to join the Fire Will lineage in the future? However, this had nothing to do with him. No need. What high-grade spiritual food do you have here? Pick a few of them for me. Give me a fair price, and I won't trouble Senior Martial Brother Yang. Don't worry, Senior Martial Brother Su. You can choose what you want. It doesn't matter if Senior Martial Brother Yang is here or not. We'll definitely choose the best for you, and the price will definitely be the lowest. The 2 Qi refining cultivators were very good at talking. However, In this Yongjin Peak's Jubao Pavilion, there were only 7 or 8 types of high-grade spiritual food suitable for cultivation. After all, there weren't many cultivators in Yongjin Peak who needed high-grade spiritual food. Most cultivators couldn't afford it at all. There were a lot of middle-grade spiritual food, but Sumo didn't like them. The two chi refining cultivators were still pondering which ones to choose. Later, Sumo waved her hand. I'll take as many as you have. Huh? Okay. Although the two chi refining cultivators were a little dumbfounded, they knew that Sumo was now a rich beggar cultivator, so they directly prepared them. There were a total of 8 types of high-grade spiritual food, all of which were plants and herbs. There were a total of 220 servings. In the end, Su Zimo bought all of them, spending less than 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones. That was close to 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. But for the current Sumo, it was just a small amount of money. He had 20,000 middle-grade spirit stones, and he spent less than 1/20th of it. This was definitely a big deal for Yongjin Peak's Jubao Pavilion. For the first time in her life, Sumo felt that not being able to spend money was also a kind of pain. It seemed that she still had to go to Tianlin Mountain's Jubao Pavilion next time. If she was afraid of being unsafe, she could ask a senior martial brother to accompany her. The spirit stones on Sumo's body were a formless pressure on him. Sumo wanted to consume a part of them. It would be best if she could use them all for her own combat power. And the best way to consume them was to buy spiritual food, let the copper bowl bless her, and then absorb them herself. After buying the spiritual food, Sumo didn't stay for long and directly returned to the 9th peak of Windwheel Mountain. Originally, he wanted to go to the Sex Cave abode to see by Lai. But thinking of the eldest senior martial brother's instructions and the second senior martial brother's words, he still felt that Windwheel Mountain was safer. So, he directly returned to the Windwheel Cosmic Cave. With the superior-grade spiritual food, Sumo directly took out the copper bowl. He was going to upgrade the copper bowl again. And this time, Sumo was not stingy. First, he threw all the scattered spirit stones on him, whether they were low-grade or middle-grade, into the copper bowl. Then, he directly threw more than 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones into the bowl. This was definitely a big deal. At the same time, he also made a round number of his middle-grade spirit stones, 18,000. Chi-chi, hoo-hoo. Inside the copper bowl, white smoke billowed like a white flame. In the end, those spirit stones disappeared as if they were swallowed by the copper bowl. Not even ashes were left. And this time, the appearance of the copper bowl changed qualitatively. Previously, when Sumo threw more than a dozen middle-grade spirit stones into the copper bowl, he found that the copper bowl was a little stupid. That was because the dark lines on the copper bowl had deepened and become heavier. But this time, the copper bowl really changed completely. Based on ordinary spirit stones, Sumo had thrown more than 100,000 spirit stones into the bowl at once. Hoo-hoo! As the middle-grade spirit stones disappeared, the copper bowl in Sumo's hand gradually turned into an object with 3 legs and 2 handles, emitting a greenish-yellow light. Sumo was stunned. This is a cauldron. The broken copper bowl actually evolved into a cauldron? The small cauldron was extremely heavy, and it was covered with tadpole-like runes. Unfortunately, Sumo did not recognize a single one of them. However, the small cauldron emitted an endless aura of vicissitudes. Green light flowed, deliberately colorful. Moreover, there were 2 ancient words carved on one side of the small cauldron. Soul Depository. Soul Depository? Sumo held the ancient cauldron and was shocked. Why is it Soul Depository again? Previously, he entered the mysterious cave abode in Punishing Heart Cliff, and there was a so-called Soul Depository there. Soul Depository Cauldron, Soul Depository Altar. What was the connection between them? Moreover, can this small cauldron still evolve? Is this its final form? Sumo asked inwardly. He took out another 100 middle-grade spirit stones and threw them into the copper bowl again. However, after the spirit stones entered the bowl, there was no reaction. Sumo was stunned. He took out the spirit stones, and they actually had spirit energy. Complete evolution? Sumo's heart skipped a beat. What pity! This small cauldron looks good. However, It is not as comfortable as the broken copper bowl. Sigh. Sumo held the soul depository cauldron in her hand and muttered to herself helplessly. However, something strange happened. Following Sumo's words, the soul depository cauldron actually flashed with a green light, and then instantly turned into the original appearance of the broken copper bowl, as if it had not absorbed a single spirit stone. This scene gave Sumo a huge shock. What's going on? Sumo rubbed her eyes and then said, "Change back." Just as she finished speaking, another green light flashed. The broken copper bowl really did turn into the soul depository cauldron. Can it be a little bigger? Another green light flashed, and the soul depository cauldron actually more than doubled in size, and it seemed like it could still grow. Can it be a little smaller? As expected, the soul depository cauldron quickly shrunk. What a great treasure! Sumo trembled with excitement. Could this be the soul depository cauldron? Come, you'll become a stick for me. Sumo had forgotten himself. With a loud shout, his body suddenly shot forward. Unfortunately, the soul depository cauldron did not move at all. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.